defense that might provide an as-applied Article 2 challenge at the time. I'm not suggesting today, but the idea that a decision that was made and ultimately endorsed by this court, perhaps wrongly, in the Korematsu case, would support criminal prosecution under 241, which requires under United States versus Lanier that the right have been made specific so that there is notice to the president. I don't think that would have been satisfied.
Yeah, it's debatable, although he does have his history wrong. Alito was right to call him out on that. It was FDR's decision, despite pushback from a legal perspective from both the head of the bureau as well as his attorney general. But that's sort of a secondary issue. The idea is you have exposure when a president orders a drone strike, for example, as Obama ordered many, and civilians are killed. Could you face manslaughter charges? So the official acts, as separated from the private acts, seems to be a pretty good line to draw. And again, the left forced the court to draw that line. That's why this case is seminal. Now, that being said, Trump, in the wake of the decision, his legal team has asked Judge Merchan to throw out his guilty verdict under the theory that he has absolute immunity for official acts committed as president. No, I don't think so.
What is the official act in the New York case? I mean, that
it's not an official act as president. I mean, under the theory of the case, it was hush money payment, which is a private act in furtherance of a conspiracy to violate campaign finance laws, which is also a private act, and it happened as a candidate, it would happen prior to him being president. So even if Judge Merchan wasn't in the tank to do whatever is required to put Trump in prison, which he is, even if he wasn't, even if he was fair-minded, I don't think a fair-minded reading gets you the guilty verdict thrown out under what the Supreme Court held yesterday. George in Naperville, you're on Chicago's Morning Answer.
Yeah, Dan, sure, Biden was full of energy and forceful. Nobody paints an ugly, dark America like him.
Thanks for the call, George. Greg Schomburg.
Mr. Thomas, welcome this week, and Dan, thanks for taking the call. This may seem off topic, but I don't believe it is. If President Pence had not seen himself as a clerk on January 6th, but entertained those electors by doing what the Constitution, I believe, was asking him to do, send it back to the states, then what would have happened is built into all of the decisions that you're talking about, be it the San Francisco situation, et cetera. There always comes about in human interactions the need for a common, reasonable person to overlook bad process that's happening among people. And I believe that's what the founders intended for the Pence role on January 6th. And because he didn't do it, we end up with all of this mess. Thanks.
Thanks for the call, Greg. All right, coming up at 5:38, a neurosurgeon weighs in on the condition, or offers a diagnosis from afar, the condition of one President Biden. We'll start there as the rallying around the Biden flag continues among Democrats. That's at 5:38. Now we check the headlines with Mike Scott.
Dan and Charles, good morning. 5:31, former President Donald Trump's victory in the Supreme Court over immunity is sparking intense reaction from both parties. The justices ruling 6-3 that Donald Trump has limited immunity in the federal election interference case for acts he took while in office. Florida attorney Richard Serafini says the ruling finds that Trump has limited immunity, and that is good for his legal battles.
Seems at this point to be a mixed bag, but probably a little bit more good news for Donald Trump than for Jack Smith. Maybe a lot more good news for Donald Trump.
Trump advisor Alina Habba says the ruling means Trump's election interference case has hit a roadblock. Democrats are hammering the court over its decision to grant immunity to presidents for official acts. Handing that win to Donald Trump, a politically weakened President Joe Biden claimed the court's decision sets a dangerous precedent.
The American people must decide. They want to entrust the president once again, the presidency, to Donald Trump. now knowing he'll be even more emboldened to do whatever he pleases whenever he wants to do it.
Former U.S. Capitol Police Officer Harry Dunn slammed the court's decision.
I was there when Donald Trump encouraged a mob of supporters to march on the Capitol to try to overturn the results of a free and fair election. I remember it clearly, while they were beating officers with flags.
The Senate Majority Leader posted the decision, quote, saying it undermines SCOTUS's credibility, end quote. American victims of Hamas's October 7 terror attacks are suing Iran, Syria, and North Korea over their support of the terrorist group. The Anti-Defamation League filed suit in Washington, D.C., claiming Hamas was able to carry out the attacks on Israel because of their support. Newly released court documents show Florida prosecutors may have known Jeffrey Epstein raped teenage girls 2 years before cutting a plea deal. The transcripts are part of a 2006 grand jury investigation that led to a year and a half in a Palm Beach County jail for the deceased financier. Multiple people facing charges after Chicago police made a number of arrests in the hours after the so-called Pride Parade over the weekend. More than 50 arrests were made. Authorities have ID'd the man pulled from Lake Michigan at Montrose Beach yesterday. Officers pulling Albert Nazaroff out of the water, taking him to a nearby hospital where he died. Detectives are now investigating that death. Firefighters in Dalton dropped a major bombshell during a board meeting Monday night as they demanded answers and raised questions. According to Adam Farage, president of Local 3766, firefighters have been working with no contract now for close to 5 years. The union also raised concerns over retirement funds, workman's comp, and union dues that may have been diverted.
We will continue to serve despite the fact our health insurance is not being paid, our retirement funds are being taken from us, and workers' compensation claims are not being handled properly. These are serious issues, and they need to be addressed and fixed immediately.
Members say health insurance covered under the collective bargaining agreement and premiums from health insurance are not being met, which they said is resulting in many members and their families' claims not only being denied, but sent to collections. Cubs and Phillies at Wrigley Field tonight. White Sox begin a series with Cleveland on Lake Erie. Sky look to avoid a 3-game losing streak when they visit Atlanta, and the Bulls have signed center Jalen Smith to a 3-year free agent contract worth $27 million. The news, a service of Crosscom Public Adjusters. If your home or business has an insurance claim, Crosscom will help you get what you need and have coming to you. They've helped thousands. CrosscomPublicAdjusters.com. We'll have a check of traffic and weather on the way next on AM 560.
This radio station is always on, but sometimes you need more content that you can take with you anywhere. That's why we invented the SalemPodcastNetwork.com. You'll find all the great hosts on this radio station, plus a few more, like Charlie Kirk, Dinesh D'Souza, Trish Regan, Jenna Ellis, and Dennis and Julie. There's literally no end to what we can teach you. It's like radio on demand, and just like radio, it's always on. Go find out what you're missing. Download the app, SalemPodcastNetwork.com.
Balance of Nature's fruits and veggies supplements, changing the world one life at a time.
I've been watching it on TV, and then my soul has my husband, and I guess he just called up and surprised me. He had ordered it, and I didn't expect it for me to notice it so right away. I kind of shocked my husband when I told him. I've been taking it like a little over a week. I'm taking it, and then I can already notice the difference. I do feel very good. I can't even put it into words. I feel really good every day. I don't wake up grouchy. I love everybody to take it. I think it's wonderful.
Splash into your summer with Balance of Nature's summer savings. Go to balanceofnature.com and sign up as a new preferred customer to get 50% off your first set. Don't miss out. This offer is only available while supplies last. Go to balanceofnature.com or call 1-800-246-8751 and get this limited time offer by using discount code CHICAGO.
The IRS finally caught up with Louie.
I hadn't paid my taxes in 8 years. I owed the IRS a lot of money.
Louie was in deep trouble.
We're going to take your house, put a lien on your bank account, garnish your pay. They don't care. They're going to take your paycheck.
Louis found out about Optima Tax Relief, the leading tax resolution firm. A-plus rated by the Better Business Bureau, they've resolved over $1 billion for their clients.
Optima Tax, they help me. They calm me down. They make me feel comfortable, and I trust them.
Louis has a lot to be thankful for.
I don't owe the IRS anymore, and I'm able to live a comfortable life, a lot better life. It was because of Optima Tax.
For tax help you can trust, call Optima now for a free consultation. Take it from Louis.
If you owe the IRS, don't go it alone. Give Optima Tax a call. They can help you.
Call 800-965-1433. 800-965-1433. 800-965-1433.
Optima Tax Relief.
Testimonial from an actual client. Some restrictions apply. For complete details, please visit OptimaTaxRelief.com.
Quick delivery service. What do you need delivered today?
Hi, I'm trying to work through a last-minute to-do list for my boss. Can you deliver a hard drive to the Loop in Chicago?
We can deliver that today.
Okay, can you deliver 20 boxes to a client in Rockford?
We can deliver that today.
Can you deliver 12 pallets of tile to our customer in Naperville?
We can deliver that today.
Can you deliver a large envelope to Northbrook?
We can deliver that today.
Oh my gosh, I think my water just broke. Can you...
We cannot deliver that.
Quick Delivery Service delivers your package no matter the size. More than just a messenger service, Quick Delivery Service is a messenger and tracking service that can also provide scheduled routes for your daily delivery or your air shipment. Trucks are equipped to handle the load and provide ground-level service for same-day delivery. The Quick Delivery Service team of safe, licensed professionals can provide quick door-to-door service for your special delivery. QuickDelivery.com. That's QuickDelivery.com. We deliver that today. But we don't deliver this.
Feeling thirsty? Head to a nearby convenience store for a Pepsi Zero Sugar, Mountain Dew, or Starry. Grab a delicious, refreshing Pepsi for the road.
5:39. Let's get an update on the roads. Team Hochberg Traffic Center time. And this update is service of Valdecast Windows for the discerning homeowner looking for high-quality and professional-level window replacement service. Contact Valdecast Windows, your award-winning Platinum Elite Pella certified contractor. Visit Valdecast.com. Eden's big problems outbound right at Dundee Road. You've got a semi that hit the wall. Most of the accident is on the right-hand shoulder right at that location. And delays this morning on DuSable Lakeshore Drive as the NASCAR street race setup continues. Southbounders on DuSable Lakeshore Drive, you're shunted off as it is closed from Randolph down to Soldier Field. Accident in northwest Indiana, Porter County, 2 right lanes blocked. Eastbound on 94 right at State Road 49. Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan and Amy continues next. AM 560 Weather Center forecast. Breezy with a shower this morning. Clouds and sun and a pop-up thunderstorm for the afternoon. High 85. Currently 67. Your next news is at 6. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next on AM 560, The Answer.
Now, from the Signature Bank Studios, America First with Sebastian Gorka. Weekday afternoons at 3 on AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan, and in for Amy this morning, ABC 7 political reporter, retired emeritus, Charles Thomas.
Emeritus.
Emeritus. Doesn't
Wow,
that sound
I like
better?
that.
Yeah.
I like that. It sounds real academic.
Get some business cards printed up.
Yeah.
Greg and Schomburg made the call and a comment about electors and the 2020 election and Pence's role in ratifying the alleged outcomes in the 50 states. There's another series of criminal prosecutions going on that are illegitimate. And I just wanted to pivot off of what Greg said and address those because there's a really good op-ed in the Wall Street Journal from Lawrence Lessig, who's a law professor at Harvard. But you've got Arizona, Georgia, Michigan, and Wisconsin where there are prosecutions afoot to that are targeting the electors, the alternative electors that the Trump campaign put together, right? That they wanted Pence to count. Lessig writes, The effort to prosecute them is unconstitutional, and the campaign to vilify them is stupid. The fake electors, as the Democrat Socialists and their comm shop staff and the D.C. press corps call them, fake electors, the fake electors. They deserve to be prosecuted criminally. The effort to prosecute them is unconstitutional, and the campaign to vilify them is stupid. While the litigation unfolds, the clock ticks. The precedent set in 1960 in Hawaii is what Lessig goes to. Nixon had been declared the winner of Hawaii. A recount eventually went for JFK, but not after Electors' Day. Both Nixon's and Kennedy's electors met to cast their ballots. On January 6th of 1961, Vice President Nixon, overseeing the count in Congress, counted Kennedy's votes, not his. Right? The recount went JFK's way, but not until after Electors' Day, so both slates of electors cast their ballots. Nixon had been declared the winner. That's a little bit different than fast forward 60 years in the 2020 race, where in these states Trump was not declared the winner. But the point stands. The recount went Kennedy's way. Vice President Nixon, overseeing the count in Congress, and this is where I part company with Greg and those who think Pence did wrong. Vice President Nixon, overseeing the count in Congress after the recount went JFK's way, counted Kennedy's votes, not his. Professor Lessig goes on to write, presidential electors perform a federal function. A state's interference with that function through prosecution is unconstitutional. Take judicial notice, Dana Nessel and Fawnie Willis and what's the AG's name in Wisconsin again? Anyway. If the delay extends beyond Electors' Day and if fear of becoming a quote-unquote fake elector felon drives the other side's electors not to vote, then the presumptive result will be the only result, even if it doesn't accord with the will of the voters properly accounted. In other words, if there's a declaration of the winner and then a recount says, as in 1960 in Hawaii, Nixon won, no, we recounted, Kennedy won. And that was how it was ultimately recorded. But if they hadn't had the Kennedy electors vote on Electors' Day in advance of the recount, then you couldn't have had Hawaii go for Kennedy. So now look at it the other way, all you Democrats with your fake elector mantra, the historical precedent here. Lessig goes on to say, the danger on the other side is that the losing side will file baseless charges, as Mr. Trump's lawyers did in 2020. He's not saying it's necessarily that they were right, just that they have the right.
They have the right. You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. They have the right.
And those lawyers who file baseless charges have faced severe penalties professionally. It's wildly unrealistic to require electors, most of whom aren't lawyers, to evaluate their candidates' legal claims before casting their ballots. The burden belongs on the lawyers. Lessig concludes, we know that elections are going to be close. There's no good reason to force a resolution of election contests weeks before January 6th. Hawaii gave us a way to allow the orderly resolution of election claims and ensure that the will of the people will ultimately count. We should follow that example from a less partisan time. I just thought that was a good editorial and an important one, as these illegitimate prosecutions of ordinary Americans are ongoing. And this is something, again, to my mind, Trump should be reminding the country of when it turns to you're a twice impeached, convicted felon, blah, blah, blah. Make it not about him, but about what they will do to anyone who runs afoul of their orthodoxy. And a lot of anyones who don't have anywhere near the capacity, obviously, to engage in lawfare with them that Trump does. That's really important.
Yeah, that's very important, because you can go back to even the 2000 election and presidential election and the controversy surrounding that election. I mean, were the Democrats wrong for challenging the results in Florida? No, they're not wrong for challenging them. They lost, but I mean, you have to have the right to protest in this country. I thought that was one of the bedrock principles of the United States. That
Yeah.
you have the right to protest.
Yeah,
and you can protest, you lose, but then you have to face prosecution in the courts because you challenged. Oh boy.
Yeah, it's almost like it's an official act of being a citizen, to put it in the sort of the Trump immunity case parlance. This is an official act. I expressed my viewpoint. I protested. I accessed the channels that are available to lodge a grievance. You don't agree that my grievance is real? Okay. But I have a right to lodge it, to have it adjudicated, to appeal it for more adjudication, and to exhaust that process. But no. Anything you do that they disagree with is fake. It's a threat to democracy. You're an insurrectionist. And that's just so tiresome.
It's tiresome. It's
and
all
un-American.
The democracy, what is it, mantra that they constantly use, the threat to democracy. They are the threat to democracy.
Right. Which is what these cases, the J6 Sarbanes-Oxley 1512 Supreme Court decision and the Trump immunity decision yesterday, the presidential immunity, it just happens to be brought by Trump, the presidential immunity decisions, that's what the Supreme Court is saying. Saying you're taking us down a path to being a illiberal country rather than a peaceful pluralist one.
But it's a repeat of the fact that they do what they argue against. It's constant.
They do what they accuse others of doing. Their opponents of doing
what they accuse others of doing.
Yeah.
And talk about a threat to democracy.
Well, listen to this. I mean, just another example. So Steve Bannon reported to prison yesterday for his 4-month sentence for contempt of Congress. Oh, okay. Yeah, and many people don't like Steve Bannon, but you really want to be on Barbara McQuade's side on this? Barbara McQuade is a former U.S. attorney. Former U.S. attorney. Boy, I talk about scales from eyes. How many of us have had to completely readjust our disposition towards state and federal prosecutors, toward state level and federal judges? They deserve the benefit of the doubt. They're doing good work to keep us safe, to root out crime, and to uphold the Constitution, and so on and so forth. Some certainly are. A lot certainly are not. Case-by-case basis, as far as I'm concerned. Barbara McQuade, former U.S. attorney, on Steve Bannon's imprisonment over contempt of Congress.
It's interesting, Alex. There are more people today who believe that the election was stolen than did on January 6th. And that is because of this constant drumbeat by people like Steve Bannon on his War Room podcast, like Donald Trump, like people who go to the rallies. And the repetition is what has caused people to believe it to be true. And so it is a significant factor. And, it's damaging in so many ways, not simply to suggest that Donald Trump actually won an election, but to undermine public confidence in elections themselves, because that is a real threat to the future of our democracy. So I imagine we'll hear more of the same from Steve Bannon, but then he's going to be locked up for 4 months where he will be unable to do his War Room podcast, and perhaps that will be the greatest service to democracy that we see from this prosecution.
Okay.
Woo.
Locking people up.
This is a First Amendment question here.
Locking people up so they can't broadcast is a service to the democracy. Quote unquote democracy, their parlance. I mean, this is what you're dealing with. You're allowed to believe things that are not true, right?
You are allowed to believe things that are not true.
You're allowed to advocate for things that may or may not have happened. We do that every Friday with David Kolsak, Turkey.pro. I mean,
we're doing that right now.
Right. Well, you can
in Chicago.
Yeah. I mean, that's an astounding statement to me from an officer of the court, a former U.S. attorney. It's good he's in prison to shut him up. It's not good because he violated contempt of Congress and this is serious and there need to be consequences. No. It's good we're throwing him in prison for any reason, any predicate to shut him up. I mean, that's Soviet. I don't know how else to say it.
And that's why I sit here. That's why I don't mind driving at 4:00 in the morning, because this is serious. When you have people like that in positions of power who can put people in jail, in prison,
right,
for speaking out, saying whatever, and that certainly goes against what I learned this country is supposed to be all about.
Tom in Blue Island, you're on Chicago's Morning Answer.
Good morning, Dan and Charles. The crime Trump committed and the crime that Bannon committed is being Republicans. Lois Lerner didn't go to jail. Eric Holder didn't go to jail.
There you go.
Trump deserves to go to jail because he undertook to challenge the fact that the election was stolen, and it was stolen. It wasn't just rigged, it was stolen. But that being said, maybe I'm wrong, but I have the right to say it, but not in 2024 America when you're a Republican. If you're a Democrat, you can do whatever you want. If you're a Republican, you get to go to jail. And to that attorney you just played, you put a man in federal prison. How about Peter Navarro? I believe he's pressing 80 years old. He's sitting in jail too. This is, as you said, Dan, Soviet. There's nothing else to it.
Thanks for the call, Tom. And the left is becoming more and more unhinged as the prospect of Trump victory becomes more and more likely. Not done by any stretch. I am hardly spiking the football, measuring drapes. Pick your favorite metaphor. This is a long way from over. But after that debate performance and the panic that is now public, can't keep it internal anymore because you've got donors panicking and so on and so forth. More and more unhinged. And no one better represents the unhinged left than Joy Reid. Take a listen.
This election is no longer about the old guy that's in the White House now. Like, all the op-ed pages and the New York Times can run around and opine about, what Joe Biden should do. And, y'all have fun with that. Enjoy yourselves, intellectual thought leaders. I no longer care. Doesn't matter to me anymore. It's above me now. It's above me now. There's a Waffle House next door. There's a Best Western next door as well. It's above me now. It's above Joe Biden now. Don't care about Joe Biden's age, infirmity, that he shuffled when he walked. I don't care. He could be seated for the rest of from now to Election Day and never get up off a chair. He could sit down. He could roll around in a wheelchair. He could be on a skateboard, seated. I don't care. Donald John Trump cannot be allowed back into the White House. Because if you combine that madman with this court, two of whose members are insurrectionists, one of whom flew an upside-down flag at his home and blamed it on his wife, who's also crazy. The other of whose wife literally was part of the insurrection. And they ruled in this. They put themselves in the Leonard Leo 6. They went ahead and ruled on this with no shame. You combine this court, two of whose members are going to immediately resign, and put 30-year-olds in there, including probably the guy who wrote the opinion in the Beaters case, meaning that Beaters should be able to get machine guns, which, by the way, they have now arrogated to themselves the power to decide all federal rules. Everything, whether your plane that you fly in is safe, how much carbon can be in the atmosphere, how much filth can be in your water. They said agencies that have experts can't decide that. They will decide that. So they are kings, and Trump is king. You put him in the White House, combined with this court and a Republican House and Senate, we're done, y'all. All the rights that were won in the 20th century, the hard-earned rights of women, laborers, workers, the rights of children. Remember, child labor used to be legal. The rights of black folks, forget that. The rights of non-white immigrants, forget that. All of the 20th, they are trying to repeal the entire 20th century, and they're doing it fast. Between them and these crazy Republican governors, they are repealing the American century, the 20th century, because they don't like it and they want back the 19th century. The century when super rich white men, unchecked and untaxed, amassed great wealth, passed it down with no taxation to their descendants and pretended that they had earned it on their own, that they were just masters of the universe. They want that era back. They think that the 20th century was an abomination and they are dismantling it. They're coming for every single one of our rights. They're not done.
Pay no attention to my powdered wig, Charles.
That your powdered wig.
Yeah, we want the 19th century back. Yeah, we're repealing the 20th century. Joy Reid.
Repealing the 20th century so that we can all become, us black folks, we can.
Yes, it will be the landed aristocracy of honkies and powdered wigs exploiting the masses and so forth.
I don't know what relevance it says. Blonde black women running the. I don't know. I'm confused. I'm so confused.
These are confusing times. But by the way, again, just in terms of the illiberalism of the left, Keisha Lance Bottoms, the former mayor of Atlanta, the Atlanta Journal-Constitution called on Biden to step aside, just as the New York Times did. That's election interference, according to the former mayor of Atlanta.
Really?
Well, let me just say I was very disappointed with the Atlanta Journal-Constitution, as we've talked about making sure that we are protecting elections and making sure there's no undue influence. This was undue influence by the Atlanta Journal-Constitution, or an attempt to influence. And I think that voters should be able to make the decision the same way they did in primaries that
but
were
isn't that what editorial boards are supposed to do?
That even gets the obvious reaction at MSNBC. You can't opine in a direction. You know what? The editorial board of the Atlanta Journal-Constitution belongs in prison next to Steve Bannon.
Yes.
I mean,
clearly. Oh, man, that's amazing. It's the turn that they've taken. And these are liberals.
No, they're not liberals. They're
exactly.
Soviets.
They're
Soviets.
No, man. It goes. These are.
What's the word? We'll find out at 6:06.
Nazis.
Oh boy,
I don't know,
the N-word has been called. That one.
The N-word, man. This is terrible.
Back at 6:06 with Charles Thomas.
Is the Supreme Court undermining the rule of law? I'm Dave Anthony, Fox News. President Biden says it is.
There are virtually no limits on what a president can do. This is a fundamentally new principle, and it's a dangerous precedent.
Reacting to the court's ruling that former presidents have immunity from prosecution for official acts while in office.
American people must decide if they want to entrust the president once again, the presidency, to Donald Trump, now knowing he'll be even more emboldened to do whatever he pleases whenever he wants to do it.
But in the 6-3 ruling, the court also ruled there's no immunity for unofficial acts. Chief Justice John Roberts wrote the decision does not mean presidents are above the law. Former President Trump called the ruling a big win for democracy, and he posted on Truth Social early this morning. It's a high-level spanking, in all caps, for Jack Smith, who he calls deranged. The special counsel's 2020 election interference case against the former president is delayed by this immunity appeal, and
there are a number of reports this morning that former President Trump is already using this Supreme Court decision to try to set aside his criminal convictions in that New York business records case. Now, as far as that New York case against Trump is concerned, at the moment, sentencing is scheduled for next week.
Fox's Doug Luzader. Israel's ordered Palestinian civilians to leave Han Yunis, signaling a new offensive against Hamas in the Gaza City, where rockets were fired at Israel today. In Ukraine, a perhaps awkward meeting. Hungary's prime minister is there for the first time since Russia invaded.
Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban has been reluctant to support Ukraine's military despite his country being part of the European Union and NATO. Orban is close to Russian President Vladimir Putin and believes Ukraine cannot win the war.
Fox's Jonathan Savage. Beryl is now a Category 5 hurricane, the earliest one ever in the Atlantic. 165-mile-an-hour top winds. It did a lot of damage in Grenada, the Grenadines, and Barbados. At least 2 deaths reported. America's listening to 66 degrees at 6:02 on AM 560, The Answer. And good morning, everyone. I'm Mike Scott. Multiple people are facing charges after Chicago police made a number of arrests in the hours after the so-called Pride Parade over the weekend. More than 50 arrests were made in connection to post-parade activity. More than 87,000 people moved out of Illinois, taking with them $10 billion in income, according to the latest IRS data. For well over a year, Governor J.B. Pritzker has denied the state's population decline, saying the census is getting it wrong.
You should take what I'm saying as truth, that actually when we count people, it turns out we're gaining.
However, the IRS data clearly shows between calendar years 2021 and 2022, the number of people flowing into Illinois was about 177,000. The number flowing out, 264,000, a net loss of 87,286. Republican State Senator Andrew Chesney says Democrats continuing to deny population decline continue bad policies.
We're not bringing in the best and the brightest in many cases to the state of Illinois. We're actually pushing them out of our state through awful policies, and we're backfilling it with folks that want services.
Total lost income was $9.89 billion. Florida, the biggest gainer. 31,000 Illinoisans went there, taking with them $4.1 billion in income. Firefighters in the village of Dalton dropped a major bombshell during a board meeting Monday night. They demanded answers after working 5 years without a new contract.
We will continue to serve despite the fact our health insurance is not being paid, our retirement funds are being taken from us, and workers' compensation claims are not being handled properly. These are serious issues, and they need to be addressed and fixed immediately.
Members raising concerns about health insurance covered under the collective bargaining agreement and premiums not being met, which they say now results in members and their families' claims not only being denied, but sent to collections. Cubs and Phillies at Wrigley tonight. White Sox begin a series with Cleveland on Lake Erie. The Blackhawks busy during free agency yesterday. Hawks with former Maple Leafs forward Tyler Bertuzzi now under contract 4 years, $5.5 million a year. The news, a service of Valdecas Windows. For the discerning homeowner looking for high quality and professional level window replacement service, contact Valdecas Windows, your award-winning Platinum Elite Pella certified contractor. Visit valdecas.com. And a check of traffic and weather on the way next on AM 560.
Your home is a valuable asset, and you want to take care of your home. From roofs, siding, windows, and doors to furnaces, flooring, landscaping, and much more. Listen to your go-to for all things home. It's Home Answers Radio every Sunday morning at 9. Presented by Lang Home Medical Equipment, Executive Green Carpet Cleaning, and by Valdecas Windows and Doors. Get answers from industry experts so you can make informed decisions about your home improvement. Right here on AM 560, The Answer.
Balance of Nature supplements, changing the world one life at a time.
My name is Dr. Zhang. I'm a doctor of podiatric medicine.
My name is Todd. I'm a paramedic firefighter. I've been on the job for 28 years.
My name is Dr. Peter Munda. I'm a chiropractor in New York, Long Island.
I've been taking Balance of Nature for 23 years.
I love Balance of Nature, and this is definitely a product that I would recommend to other people, and I'll never stop taking it.
How many 70-year-old pictures, you know? As far as Balance of Nature goes, I'll keep taking this stuff until the day I die, you know?
I'm almost 55 years old, and because I have so much vitality, I can really enjoy the great outdoors. Our bodies are kind of like machines. If you do not give the machine the proper nutrition, it's not going to work very well. Simple as that.
Splash into your summer with our summer savings. Go to balanceofnature.com and get 50% off your first set as a preferred customer by using discount code CHICAGO.
Despite overwhelming support from Democrats and Republicans, time is running out for Congress to pass the AM Radio for Every Vehicle Act, which will keep AM radio in cars. Text AM to 52886 and ask Congress to bring this bill to a vote now. AM radio is too important to let this moment pass us by.
Message and data rates may apply. You may receive up to 4 messages a month, and you may text STOP to stop.
This message furnished by the National Association of Broadcasters.
6:07, let's check the roads. Team Hochberg Traffic Center time. And this update, a service of Papa Nicholas Coffee, a Chicagoland tradition for over 5 generations, combining heritage and innovation in every cup. Choose Papa Nicholas Coffee because Great coffee is their family tradition. Online at papanicholas.com. Kennedy inbound already at 27 O'Hare into the Burns Circle interchange. Inbound Dan Ryan jamming up in the locals, 47th up through the Chinatown feeder. Accident cleanup continues in northwest Indiana on I-94 eastbound. 2 right lanes are blocked at State Road 49. Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan and Amy continues next. Now your official Chicagoland weather forecast with Steve Williams.
Breezy, a couple of passing showers. Clouds this morning, partly sunny by afternoon. A high today 85. Breezy this evening, cloudy, warm, a thunderstorm late tonight, low 71. Shower in spots early tomorrow morning, then partly sunny. The high 88. I'm Steve Williams on AM 560, The Answer.
67 at O'Hare, 67 Midway. Your next news update is at 6:30. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next on AM 560, The Answer.
Now, from the Signature Bank Studios, this is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson on AM 560. The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan, and in for Amy J this morning, ABC political reporter emeritus Charles Thomas.
Just paying attention, my brother.
So, I gotta talk. I have to talk about all the quote-unquote pride activities over the weekend around the country. I just have to. And by activities, of course, I mainly mean public fornication. Something to celebrate. Boy Scouts marching in Seattle, San Francisco. What you see, and I'm happy to provide the receipts, as the kids say. What you see at these parades, it's part of our ghetto culture. I mean, reenacting Caligula on Broadway is not high art, and it's not anything to be proud of either. The whole thing is rather distasteful, don't you find?
It's distasteful to me because it is anti-family, and we don't have we don't have equivalent celebrations for family. I'm talking nuclear family. I'm talking about male, female, offspring, presided over in a belief in God, and family. These are the basic building blocks of any community, any society. That is family. And we've abandoned that culturally. And I think the parade is the epitome of that, because that isn't, it isn't family. Because if you lose that family, that building block, then your society can crumble. And
so when you say that these parades are not like that, like, are you referring to, say, for example, at the San Francisco quote-unquote Pride Parade, a man lying in an inflatable pool of urine in the fetish zone where attendees are encouraged to urinate on him? Is that what you're talking about?
That's what I'm talking about. And any number of other little vignettes that happen along the parade route, not only in Chicago, but of course in San Francisco and New York, but elsewhere in the country. I think it is incumbent on every person, no matter what letter you have in the LGBTQIA, XYZ, whatever, everybody should be using the family as their North Star. That should be what we hold in this society, in this country. We hold that above all else. And I think we lose sight of that during Pride Month. We just lose sight of that fact. I don't care how gay you are, how bisexual, how whatever you are, you still have to hold that family as the North Star. And you've got to pray that every child brought into this world is brought into this world by their parents. They're caring biological parents care for the child, raise the child. That has to be the North Star. And it's, unfortunately, these parades this celebration reflects something else. Have your June Pride Parade, but let's make July Family Month, and let's get just as excited about that. And I think our country will be better off if we did something like that.
Yeah, I'm searching to try to understand what about these events is something to be proud of.
Yeah. What's there to be proud of about lying in a pool of urine?
The dog collars and being naked and the sex acts that are performed. I mean, this is all documented. I guess it's not even controversial anymore.
It's not. That's really unfortunate.
So there's no standards of public decorum or decency that we should expect of people, regardless of their sexual orientation or proclivities. There's just not. If you're one of the magical alphabet people, then all those standards are dispensed with.
I think we also need to pay attention to what's happening in the world. That Western Europe and the United States, Canada. This isn't the whole world. The rest of the world is watching this and saying, "What's going on? What's going on with those people?" I mean, they try to export this culture to Africa, for instance, and African countries are saying, "Hey, oh no, we don't do it that way.
Right?
We have a different way of looking at it." Even the Russians take offense at all.
Which speaks to the fact that this is not about gay people. This is about this as a political and cultural movement, which is what it really is. That's fundamentally the issue. And I mean, again, the evidence of cultural rot from politicians like Michigan Attorney General Dana Nessel, who was singing the Village People songs, prancing down the street at the Pride Parade up in Detroit, but didn't have time to attend the funeral of a Detroit police officer who was killed in the line of duty last week. By the way, number of police officers killed or seriously wounded just in the last week in Philadelphia, critically injured. This officer, Reckling, killed in Detroit. Two cops killed in an ambush in Connecticut the other day. I mean, just, FYI, Chief Law Enforcement Officer of the state of Michigan is too busy, getting her pride on to pay her respects to law enforcement in her state. But that's typical. It's typical of the cultural rot. Something else, too. Taylor Hansen is one of these, guerrilla journalists. He works for an outfit called Tenet Media. He was at the Pride Parade in San Francisco, and he had some questions for a guy who was, on the sidelines of the parade watching the various floats go by, who happened to be naked, and sort of motioning in the direction of children that were present. So he just wanted to understand what the deal was. What are you doing? And of course, as the argument goes, his penis got there before the kids did. So his penis got there first. That's the end of it.
I'm just going to ask you a few questions real quick. So, what is going on with you being naked? I mean, is there something
it's
wrong
legal
with
here.
You? I know it's legal here, but you got
legal
kids all around you, and I noticed I've been sitting across the way reporting on the event, and every single time kids walk by, you're enthusiastically waving at them, trying to get their attention.
Not really.
You're on camera, dude.
Not really.
You're trying to get kids' attention. You're waving at them. You're trying to talk to them.
No, I'm not. I just wave at everybody. They just happen to be there.
But it's okay for you to do this in front of kids? You're comfortable with that? You think that's something they should see?
A lot of people are doing it.
So it just makes it okay?
But it's local. It's legal. Okay.
Honey, it is natural, honey.
I'm asking him a question, not you.
So I'm his friend. So look, it is natural to be who you are and what you are. And look, you see all this? And it's love always wins.
So it always wins. So you can just be naked in front of kids, try to talk to kids. Exactly. You don't think that's weird? You don't find anything wrong with that?
No. I'm not talking to kids. They just happen to be there.
You're on the front.
Right. They happen to be where his penis is. I mean, that's not on him.
Who is the interviewer?
A guy named Taylor Hansen from Tenet Media.
Oh man, God bless him.
Yeah.
I mean, really, man.
But you heard all of the wonderful grade school arguments for justifying the unjustifiable. It's legal. Well, if something's legal, then well, it has the stamp of law. Then it's moral. Is legality and morality, are they synonyms? No. There's a lot of things that you can do legally that are in bad taste at minimum. At bad taste. A lot of other people are doing it. another great adult rationalization for one's conduct, and that it's just natural. You know, we're born naked, Charles.
Yeah,
so I mean, why as well prance around San Francisco naked in front of kids too, waving at them.
Well, you have that kind of extreme behavior, and it's become mainstream. It's been mainstreamed. I say this to my liberal friends, who I've spent a lot of time with because I used to be one of them, and they are in league, marching lockstep with this crowd. And they will not criticize this crowd. They won't. They just lockstep. The left locksteps. And you get, when I see black folks, and I'm a black folk, out in front of this behavior, out in front of other behaviors that we just don't agree with as a people. But they call themselves Democrats, and they want to be part of it, and they support it indirectly, and they're used as the principal victims. Black folks used as the.
This
victims.
is the morning show.
I don't know what happened.
No, it's just
they couldn't. I don't know.
Yes.
But I mean, we are the ultimate victims in American society, so they use us. They use us out in front of this, out in front of abortion. Other issues that our people do not agree with this, but at the same time we're out because we're on the left, and we are the soldiers, and we are the ones that turn the elections in so many of these swing states for them, for this kind of nonsense.
The things that one has to indulge to be a card-carrying leftist. Ralph and Rantoul, you're on Chicago's Morning Answer.
Hey, good morning.
Good morning.
I got a question for you guys. What kind of an irresponsible, abusive, perverted parent brings children to such events? I mean, I don't even understand that. You got the perverts on parade, and then you've got the people on the sidelines saying, let's take our children and expose them deliberately to the perversion we know that's going to occur. Well, what kind of a responsible parent does that with a child? Well, I'll tell you, one who's really off morally and isn't really thinking about the welfare and the proper raising of those children. That's who takes children to those things.
My brother, a lot of people are they sending their kids to public schools where another version of this is going down.
Yeah, slightly less graphic, but certainly along the same track, right? Because I took my son Johnny because his kindergarten friend Billy identifies as trans now, and so we're just there in solidarity. I mean, those are the sorts of answers you'll hear from these sentimental barbarians, and that's what this is. It's a gutter, barbaric expression of what has become a barbaric and gutter culture in the West in general,
right,
and in urban centers in the West in particular.
And it forces a lot of other questions to be asked too, or even just things like, hey, look, you have a right to believe whatever you want, but I'm not obligated to participate in your psychological delusions.
Well, that's the other thing too, right? Thanks for the call, Ralph. This is not tolerance. It's not acceptance. It's mandatory celebration. And, most people, unfortunately, are cowards, and so they go along with where they think they need to be be received well by whatever they consider the important people in society. And that's what drives this.
And when the prevailing culture, when this culture calls you a bigot,
yes, no, you can't be called names.
Yeah,
no, people fold.
Yeah, they fold immediately.
Phil and Darian, you're on Chicago's Morning Answer.
Hey, good morning, guys. Hey, Dan, listen, please explain to me where it is legal to be naked in any city in this nation. Where is it legal? Please explain that to me.
Well, there are, thanks for the call, Phil. I don't think that, there was a naked bike ride. It's not just the LGBTQ. There was that naked bike ride through the streets of Chicago on Saturday, which happens every year. Why? If I was mayor, that would be a mass arrest event. But no, it's okay. If you do something lascivious and distasteful in a group, and that group is aligned with the political power structure of a particular city or state, then it's an unwritten exception to the rule of law. Apparently, isn't it?
You mean Democrats?
I don't think you're allowed to perform oral sex on people in the middle of Wells Street normally, or on Broadway normally. I don't think you're allowed to do that in San Francisco normally, either, to the extent that normally is a condition that actually exists from time to time in these places. But for some reason, when you put rainbows around it, everything goes. You get the inflatable pool of urine, and let's start get your dog collar on, and let's start whipping people. And and let's start gyrating our naughty parts in front of kids too. Because love is all around. I don't know why people are so afraid to speak plainly about this. This is lunacy, and this has nothing to do with respect for everybody and the conference of human dignity and tolerance for people who are different than you, and so on. It has nothing to do with any inclusivity. This has nothing to do with any of it. That's all just blather. That's political cant from people who have been totally lobotomized, put into a zombie-like, Biden zombie-like state by this political movement. It's sad.
It is sad.
Lee and Hammond.
Hi, guys. I think you guys are putting your finger right on the crux of this issue.
Hey, watch where that finger is put.
Anybody that advocates for what we consider as decent, practices out in public is actually addressed that the idea of tolerance of people in our community, which we should tolerate anybody that's law-abiding and decent in our community, is different than demonstrations of pornography and that kind of thing, be it heterosexual or homosexual. Locally here, I heard that
of course,
someone that wants to actually put these kind of books in our libraries here for little kids to see. I wouldn't care if it's heterosexual or homosexual. What difference does it make? Pornography is pornography.
Thanks for the call, Lee. It's just, there's no social mores, right? Is that just? But that's what nihilism begets. That's what moral relativism begets. Whatever you do is morally equivalent to what I do. No. And by the way, I mentioned this in a commentary I did, Pride Goeth Before the Fall, over American Greatness earlier this month. I'm not a prude, and the next time I hold myself out as some paragon of moral virtue will be the first time. I'm not sitting in judgment of people per se, or suggesting I'm better or I'm more virtuous or anything like that. I'm saying that there have to be standards of decency in a free and a vibrant society. And this is about, as Charles eloquently said, this is about tearing at the fabric of society. That's what this is. Mm-hmm. It's a political movement. It's a Marxist political movement dressed up with rainbows. It's power politics. And yes, a lot of people are useful idiots, and they're there to, and men without chests, and they're there just to indulge their appetites. But behind it is a long-running philosophical belief system. I've talked about it before. Marcuse and Reich, go back to the Frankfurt School 100 years ago, that developed into a political movement. And, it's grotesque.
Destroy the family, you've destroyed the society. Whatever it is, I don't care if it's Afghanistan, if it's Moscow, if it's San Francisco, if it's Chicago. Destroy the family, you got chaos, you have a society that's crumbling. And that just doesn't have to do with this sexual thing, with this pride thing. What about crime? And the fact
of course,
the criminals come from broken families.
I mean, it's right. It's part of the ghettoization of the culture, but it's just part of it. And yeah, family and faith institutions, the two bulwarks against the state. Well, have been under assault, and they're losing, particularly in our big cities. Joe in Arlington Heights.
Good morning. Charles, I just wanted to amplify the points you were making about the parents that would take their kids to such an event. And then also just the repeated comment you both are making that boils down to the famous saying, God, family, country. I was going to quote scripture in Mark chapter 9. Whoever causes one of these little ones who believe to stumble, it would be better for him if, with a heavy millstone hung around his neck, he had been cast into the sea. That's what's happening. This destruction of the family starts with the little ones.
Thanks for the call, Joe. We're going to need more millstones.
This is Chicago's Morning Answer.
Your show keeps me alive during the week. There's nobody I'd rather listen to between 5 and 9 in the morning than you guys.
On AM 560, The Answer.
This is Carol Platt-Liebau for townhall.com. Pundits describe the executive powers Supreme Court case as a win for Donald Trump. In one sense, it is. Special prosecutor Jack Smith won't get the case against him to trial before the election. But the opinion wasn't written for current circumstances. It was written for the ages. The court held that presidents have absolute immunity for acts within their core constitutional powers. They have presumptive immunity from prosecution for all official acts and no immunity for unofficial acts. These are sensible distinctions. Future presidents will be free to fulfill their duties without fear of political prosecution, but without free rein to engage in lawless personal conduct. Jack Smith's case will return to the trial court to determine which of Trump's challenged acts are official. Meanwhile, our nation owes the court a vote of thanks for an opinion that will serve future generations well.
This is Sean Thompson. When you go on vacation, does it make sense to have somebody else pack for you? Of course not. The same can be said for your retirement. Your 401k could be packed with things you don't know about or even need. If you're close to retirement, but you don't have a plan customized to your goals, it's like kind of taking a 30-year vacation with no idea what's in the suitcase. Sounds like a stressful way to begin what should be a relaxing time. Tom Fortino at Alpha Wealth Group can help you unpack your savings and build a plan to reduce future taxes, address Social Security and health care, and a whole lot more, all with a clear, defined income strategy. Call the Alpha Wealth Group at 630-934-1855. Ask for the complimentary retirement plan. That's 630-934-1855 or online at alphawealthgroup.com. And listen to the Alpha Wealth Hour Saturday mornings at 9 a.m. right here on AM 560.
Advisory services through Retirement Wealth Advisors, LLC, and SEC Registered Investment Advisor. Insurance and annuities offered through Alpha Wealth Group, licensed in Illinois.
Rick Borick, host of Unleash Your Wealth, talks about the importance of tax planning in retirement.
A qualified financial planner can take you through all the steps to show you every single legal way you can use to reduce and minimize your state income taxes across the board so that, again, you keep more of your money and your family keeps more of your money.
Unleash Your Wealth, Saturday at 7 a.m. and our new time at 2 p.m. here on AM 560, The Answer.
AM 560, The Answer.
Coming up at 6:36, we will get to that neurosurgeon's diagnosis from a distance of one current commander-in-chief and the latest reactions from Democratic power brokers as to Biden's political future That's all at 6:36. Now we check the headlines with Mike Scott.
6:32, 66 degrees. An Israeli airstrike has killed at least 9 in the southern Gazan city of Khan Yunis. The overnight strike comes as Israel ordered the evacuation of parts of that city ahead of a likely ground operation. President Biden says President Trump's partial victory in the Supreme Court over immunity sets a dangerous precedent, claiming the decision means almost nothing is off limits now for a president.
For all practical purposes, today's decision almost certainly means that there are virtually no limits on what a president can do.
In an address from the White House on Monday, Biden saying the SCOTUS decision means voters deserve the ability to have an answer before Election Day on what took place on January 6. Meantime, former President Trump is looking to have his New York hush money case thrown out just hours after the court issued its landmark ruling on immunity. The letter also asked for the July 11th sentencing to be delayed. Family of 5 from Georgia is dead after a plane crash in the Catskill Mountains in New York. Family was flying home after taking part at a baseball tournament in Cooperstown. Hurricane Beryl, now a Category 5 monster, weakening slightly as it heads to the Central Caribbean. Cole Cruz and his wife Emily are riding out the storm in Grenada with their sailboat double anchored.
We've got 4 lines tied to the mangroves behind us. We've got we've got our main anchor out, and then we've got a storm anchor out as well.
Forecasters say Beryl is expected to remain an extremely dangerous major hurricane as it moves toward Jamaica by Wednesday. Multiple people facing charges after Chicago police made a number of arrests in the hours after the so-called Pride Parade over the weekend. More than 50 arrests were made. A 36-year-old man was injured in a stabbing overnight on a CTA Red Line train on the north side. The incident occurred around 11 p.m. in the 1200 block of West Loyola Avenue. The man, injured with cuts to the cheek and nose, transported to St. Francis Hospital, and this morning is in good condition. The Cubs will try to get back in the win column when they host Philadelphia at Wrigley Field tonight. White Sox take on Cleveland. Copa America, Uruguay hangs on for dear life and wins 1-0 over the U.S. in Kansas City in what may have been the worst officiated contest in pro soccer history. Bulls signed center Jalen Smith to a 3-year contract worth $27 million yesterday. The news, a service of Del Bacchio Marchetti Group of At Properties, Christie's International Real Estate, experts in the northwest suburbs and Chicago with over $800 million in sales. You'll get the most value for your home. Call 708-828-0000. And a check of traffic and weather on the way next on AM 560.
Windy City Safes in Niles wants to help you celebrate America this summer by giving away a Liberty Personal Home Safe. Enter to win from now until the 4th of July at 560theanswer.com/safe. That's 560theanswer.com/safe. And make sure to stop by Windy City Safe's showroom at 7310 North Milwaukee Avenue in Niles and receive a free American flag to display in your home or business while supplies last.
When your home or business has an insurance claim, the next step is very important. The claim process with insurance can be tedious, hard to understand, and difficult to navigate. You need someone working for you. You need a licensed claim adjuster. Why? The insurance company will send out their inspectors that work for them, get paid by them, and represent them, not you.
This is Dan Lights from Crosscom. We inspect your property, file your claim, negotiate the damages, and maximize your settlement with your insurance company. If we complete the repairs approved by your insurance company, our service is free. Crosscom Public Adjusters has turned denied claims into approved claims. We've also increased insurance claims anywhere from 23 to 1,000%. We are licensed by the Department of Insurance and work in Illinois, Northwest Indiana, and Southern Wisconsin. Crosscom Public Adjusters, 630-871-5500. Online at crosscominc.com. That's crosscominc.com. Crosscom, building trust for over 20 years.
Can peace of mind fit into just 3 fruits and 3 veggie supplements? Yes. We start by sourcing the best fruit and vegetable ingredients. We ensure that all our produce meets our rigorous standards in order to give you the highest quality product possible. They are then washed, cut, and put through an advanced vacuum-cooled process that removes the water using pressure. We then take great care in grinding them into a fine powder. These powdered ingredients are then mixed and encapsulated, locking out air and moisture. The capsules are then bottled and shipped right to your door so you can experience your own personal Balance of Nature success story.
I've looked at other supplements out there, and they don't have what Balance of Nature has.
Balance of Nature really was the game changer. I'm serious, it works.
Splash into your summer with our summer savings. Go to balanceofnature.com and get 50% off your first set as a preferred customer by using discount code Chicago.
Are you turning 65 and thinking about Medicare? Or are you over 65 and haven't enrolled yet because you still have coverage at work? Either way, Medicare done correctly will be the best health insurance you will ever have. Imagine having an annual deductible of only $240. There are only 2 good things about aging: wisdom and Medicare. But to navigate the Medicare maze properly, you need a mentor. Best part, my guidance cost you nothing. Call me. I can help.
If you're tired of calling a bureaucrat at an 800 number to help you navigate Medicare, then you need a local expert on your side, your own health insurance mentor. C. Stephen Tucker from healthinsurancementors.com is someone I know and trust. He's a 30-year licensed broker who's been educating our listeners for more than a decade. Steve, how can our listeners get in touch with you?
Thanks, Dan. They can visit healthinsurancementors.com or call me directly at 630-674-1551. That's 630-674-1551.
Feeling thirsty? Head to a nearby convenience store for a Pepsi Zero Sugar, Mountain Dew, or Starry. Grab a delicious, refreshing Pepsi for the road.
6:39. Let's get an update on the roads. Team Hochberg Traffic Center time, a service of Audible. Avoid the rain? Get immersed in Audible instead. Explore stories and ideas with audiobooks, podcasts, and originals all in one app. Sign up for a free 30-day trial at audible.com. The Eden's a mess this morning. Inbound between Foster and Montrose, all jammed up 20 minutes in and climbing from Lake Cook Road into the junction. The Kennedy at a solid 40 O'Hare into the Burns Circle interchange. Disabled vehicle on the inbound Ike, a left lane block inbound right at Wolf Road. Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan and Amy continues next. AM 560 Weather Center forecast. A breezy morning, pop-up shower perhaps, and then a chance of a thunderstorm later today. High 85. Overcast, warm with a thunderstorm overnight and a low of 71. Currently 67. Your next news update is at 7. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next on AM 560 The Answer.
Now, from the Signature Bank Studios. Only the biggest stories, only the biggest guests, and only the biggest opinions. This is AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan, and in for Amy J. This morning, former, ABC political reporter emeritus, Charles Thomas.
That was a long time ago, man.
Yeah.
Wow.
Anonymous sources very close to Biden allegedly witnessed 15 to 20 occasions, that's the quote, over the last year and a half of the president's mental decline that was put on display for the nation last week, according to journalist and Trump hater Carl Bernstein. Now it's coming from inside the House, the White House, that is.
Yeah.
It doesn't surprise, but the question is that's leaking that sort of information and leaking it through Carl Bernstein, man of the left. I said he was a journalist, so yeah, it's sort of redundant. But what does that say about what is still afoot, even as the Dems are doing comprehensive damage control on behalf of Joe Biden? And Joe has been He'd get right back on the trail. He makes the public announcement repudiating the Supreme Court decision on immunity. He needs to be seen and seen as in command, and that's what they're doing. One wonders if it will salvage him.
I don't know, man. I think that Donald Trump, during the debate last Thursday night, he basically gave his supporters a roadmap or by not overreacting during the debate, by letting Biden basically destroy himself. And
right.
I think that's what they're doing. I mean, they're just letting Biden do the talk, do the work for them. The critics or the opponents of the administration, and it's working so far, so good.
Well, right. I mean, it's working. He's up in New Hampshire now, according to a Snap poll. This is of registered voters, but nonetheless, he's up a couple of points in New Hampshire, margin of error. New Hampshire hasn't gone for a Republican since George W. Bush in 2000. Here's CNN reacting to the polling that has been done, including a CBS YouGov poll since that took place after the debate.
CBS News YouGov conducted some polling post-debate. We can compare it to the pre-debate numbers. And the bottom line, Al, it's not any good. It's not any good. Look at this. Voters who say that Biden has the mental health to be president. It was just 35% pre-debate. Look where it's dropped to now post-debate, 27%. How about that he should be running for president? It was 37% pre-debate. It's now 28%. I have never seen numbers this bad for an incumbent president during my lifetime. I mean, that mental health to be president, just 27%. You might say, okay, that's low, but a lot of people thought Biden was too old back in 2020. These numbers look nothing like this back in 2020. These numbers were bad already, and the truth is, Allison, they have gotten just considerably worse, even in just a few days after that first presidential debate.
A long way to go to climb back into the public mind that you have the capacity for the job when 3/4 are Americans. And gosh, I'd like to meet the 1/4 that believe he does. But 3/4 of Americans don't believe that he is mentally fit for the job.
Last night during his speech, people are looking at him saying, is this guy all there? I mean, they aren't necessarily listening to what he says. They're listening to who he is. I mean, his cognitive state. That's what I think people are. That's what people were watching last night.
A neurosurgeon communicated with Alex Berenson over at his Substack. He wrote, and Berenson published it. This neurosurgeon, he undoubtedly has Parkinson's disease and is increasingly suffering from Parkinson's dementia. The signs are unmistakable. His shuffling gait, the absence of associated movements like facial expression and arm swinging. When he does swing his arms, it appears stilted, probably because his handlers have told him to swing his arms when he walks. It's something we all do naturally, but it goes away in Parkinson's disease. Gait instability, soft voice, on and off periods, times when the medication seems to be working well and when it isn't. Also explains how a good dose of Cinemet times right could get him a good dose of, I guess that's a drug, Cinemet, right, could get him more animated. Raising tenor, tremor is not prominent by his case, but it's true in many cases of Parkinsonism. His physicians undoubtedly know this, and it's unconscionable we do not know about his health record. I understand HIPAA issues, but this is worse than Roosevelt's secret. He couldn't walk. At least he had his mind about him. Here we have someone with cognitive issues with his hand on the button, as we talked about yesterday. It becomes a national security issue. Berenson followed up with this neurosurgeon and asked him two questions. First, Parkinson's is generally diagnosed clinically, not from brain scans or blood markers, right? The reason I ask is that if that's the case, his physicians could presumably keep an official diagnosis out of his records while prescribing him medicines for it. The neurosurgeon said Parkinson's is largely a clinical diagnosis, meaning it is diagnosed from a neurological examination and history. There are no blood tests. And then Berenson asked about life expectancy with the symptoms Biden is displaying. And the neurosurgeon said, life expectancy is difficult to predict in Parkinson's. People can live many years, and the disease can accelerate quickly near the end or progress relatively slowly in its early stages. My prediction is the president will have increasingly troubles walking over the next 6 months, eventually needing some sort of assistive device. His dementia will probably advance during that time as well. We're not seeing the same Joe Biden of even a year ago. This is obviously an educated guess on my part, but I've spoken to many colleagues who feel the same way about his appearance. His gait and his expressionless face, called a poker face in the Parkinson's literature, hat tip Lady Gaga, are quite classic. So, I mean, just sort of one perspective, medical perspective on what's happening there. But despite the polling that you've just heard recounted by CNN, and despite this being a discussion point, the medical diagnoses from afar. Now, I know the left was doing that, too, during the Trump era when they were pursuing their 25th Amendment gambit, and you had, Ivy League psychiatrists saying Trump is, has a whatever. There's some sort of clinical diagnosis of Trump that makes him unfit for the job, and the cabinet should be convening, and so on and so forth. But I know Nancy Pelosi has diagnosed Trump with dementia, but I just don't think that's going to be good enough. However, the political panjandrums of the left are largely backing Biden. Listen to the guy who saved his campaign in 2020, that is, Jim Clyburn, Democrat of South Carolina.
Yes, it was a bad performance. I've been around these things. I've been a part of debate preparation before, and I know when I see what I call preparation overload. And that's exactly what was going on the other night. I saw Joe Biden grabbing for words and phrases and even numbers that he was loaded up with. The next day, he gets to North Carolina. He's freewheeling, and he captivated the audience. And that's what we should do. Debate preparation can be tough, but you got to really do a good job of preparing the candidate, not just with information, but with style, with deflection, and the kinds of things that we did not see in Joe Biden the other night, and saw it 4 years ago.
So he was just over-prepared, that's all. Too much prep, over-prepped.
Blame the preppers. Blame the preppers. I mean, who else you going to blame?
Jim Clyburn. Yeah, right. And Jim Clyburn then was at a party convention in Florida, and all the young black men that he ran into was backing Biden. No issues.
He should stay in this race. He should demonstrate it going forward, his capacity to lead the country. And I think the American people are demonstrating that. I just left the state of Florida. I was in a convention. We had 8,400 African-American men registered for that conference. I did not find one single one of them who told me that they are not fully confident in Joe Biden.
100% confident.
100%, man.
No qualms.
I don't know, man. I don't know. I don't know why. They never survey me. I never get to.
You're not. They kicked you off the list.
They kicked me off the list, man. I'm gone.
That's too bad.
I'm a non-person,
Kevin, Austin, Texas.
Good morning, fellas. I understood that over the weekend, Biden was asking his family what to do. And when he asked Hunter, what should I do? Hunter's response was, pardon me?
Hi-oh.
Oh, boy. I mean,
okay. A little levity. Mike in Littleton, Colorado.
Hey, good morning, and thank you for taking my call. I think just a couple of things. It's such a shame to me. I grew up in New Jersey, right across the river from this scumbag, and he's an inveterate liar. He's always been. He's a criminal. Why isn't that the focus? Why do we have to worry about his senility? And quite honestly, of all of his lies, the biggest one was, I have a 6 handicap. It's one thing to have a friend who, shoots, is a poor golfer and says, yeah, I got a 6 handicap over a beer. But that guy shoots 78 on the front 9 and thinks he has a 6 handicap. And he believes it. And the people who vote for him are a problem.
Thanks for the call, Mike. Yeah, the 6 handicap. So I'd have to give. Well, I guess he said I got it down to a 6 when he was VP. So that's 8 years removed. So I wonder what it is now. I'd like to see his index. Maybe I'll look it up. I'll look it up on Ginn, see if I can find Joe Biden's index. I hate to give him more shots than I absolutely have to.
He's got lifeless eyes, black eyes, like a doll's eyes.
Before you see it on TV, share it on Facebook, or read about it in the paper, hear it here first. This is Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
Signature Bank is Chicago's fastest growing independently owned business bank. It's a bank where relationships still matter. Signature Bank knows your name and your story. I'm Dan Proft, and I know this because Signature Bank is my business bank.
Hi, I'm Paul Jenkins, owner of Bancroft Architects and Engineers, a service-disabled veteran-owned small business providing design solutions for clients, including the VA. When looking for a trusted banking partner, Bancroft was lucky to find that partner in Signature Bank in 2015. With Signature, personal service goes beyond a login and a PIN number. My staff and I have the comfort of knowing that we're dealing with real people who know our business and care about us as individuals. Signature helped finance our new state-of-the-art facility, and Bancroft looks forward to further expanding business opportunities for disabled veterans and historically disadvantaged communities.
Signature Bank is looking for their next success story. To learn more about turning your business vision into reality, visit signaturebank.bank. Signature Bank, helping local businesses succeed. Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
Can peace of mind fit into just 3 fruits and 3 veggie supplements? Yes. We start by sourcing the best fruit and vegetable ingredients. We ensure that all our produce meets our rigorous standards in order to give you the highest quality product possible. They are then washed, cut, and put through an advanced vacuum-cooled process that removes the water using pressure. We then take great care in grinding them into a fine powder. These powdered ingredients are then mixed and encapsulated, locking out air and moisture. The capsules are then bottled and shipped right to your door so you can experience your own personal Balance of Nature success story.
I've looked at other supplements out there, and they don't have what Balance of Nature has.
Balance of Nature really was the game changer. I'm serious, it works.
Splash into your summer with our summer savings. Go to balanceofnature.com and get 50% off your first set as a preferred customer by using discount code Chicago.
If you had $1 million in 2009, today it would be worth less than $700,000. Thank you, big government. Hedge against runaway inflation with gold from Birch Gold Group. Birch Gold will help you convert an existing IRA or 401k into a tax-sheltered IRA in physical gold. I trust Birch Gold, and you can too.
Text the word SHELTER to the number 989898 and get a free, no-obligation info kit on gold. Text SHELTER to 989898 today.
Building owners, property managers, and chief engineers, this one's for you.
Hello, this is Bruce Diedrich with Waukegan Roofing, your professional roofer. Everything starts on top. Your investment, your building, and everything in it is protected by your roof. It needs to be in good shape. That's where we can help. If it needs to be repaired or replaced, or you think it might, call us. Let's find out. Here's the number.
847-623-1625.
At Waukegan Roofing, our employees are union-trained roofing professionals with OSHA safety training certifications and have thorough knowledge and expertise regarding the various roofing systems we sell, maintain, and install. We know commercial roofing systems because that's all we do. Over 110 years of doing commercial roofs. Waukegan Roofing has the slogan,
roofs you can rely on.
Because you can. Here's the number to call,
847-623-1625.
And get the info at waukeganroofing.com. waukeganroofing.com.
AM 560, The Answer.
That sound means it's time for in-depth history with Frank, the history teacher from Arlington Heights. Because there's nothing new in this world, Charles. It's only the history we don't know. Take it away, Frank. I think he's got a bit of an Independence Day-oriented message today. Frank, go ahead.
Good morning. Czechoslovakia was created at Versailles in 1919, but during negotiations, a spat developed because Slovak leaders insisted on adding a hyphen in between the Czecho and the Slovakia and making the S a capital letter. This didn't happen, but such an absurdity should have been expected, considering how fragmented the polyglot Austria-Hungary had been for centuries. The Archduke Franz Ferdinand foresaw this and had hoped to transform the country into a more federal system like ours, called the United States of Austria. His assassination in 1914 took Europe in a different direction. Nationalism has a certain Jekyll and Hyde quality. It can be a unifying force, as it was for Germany under Bismarck and Italy under Cavour and Garibaldi, but it can lead to dissolution and even terror, as shown in Austria-Hungary, India, Russia, and of course, Nazi Germany. Yet we, the United States, the ultimate multi-ethnic nation, will celebrate both our independence from England and the country's 248th birthday on Thursday. The major reason for our longevity is that the universal truths of the Enlightenment were enshrined in our founding documents. These were then later extended by Lincoln and renewed by the Civil Rights Movement so that we could remain the last best hope of mankind on this earth. And these truths are now again under assault. The last 8 years have been, in fact, one long, ongoing investigation for the American people to see just how diabolical some of our elites really are. Fortunately, the decrepit Joe Biden's blank stare and desiccated mind have become their albatross. And after November 5th, Biden, like Samuel Taylor Coleridge's Ancient Mariner, should get the chance to spend the remainder of his days roaming the earth, able to share his incoherence with anyone willing to listen. Happy 4th, everyone.
Water everywhere, and not a drop to drink. I got a question for you, Frank. You'd have perspective on this. How do you see Jill Biden as a historical figure? Jill Biden, the wife.
Jill?
Like Eleanor Roosevelt, Edith Wilson, Eva Peron. Who do you think that she most closely mirrors?
Probably Edith Wilson, I would say. I mean, I don't see her as ideological as Eleanor Roosevelt. Edith was Wilson's second wife. She loved being first lady, and she was hiding him, just like Jill seems to be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's about right. Yeah, again, history repeating, or at least rhyming. Frank from Arlington Heights, thanks as always. Coming up at 7:07, we'll return to some analysis of the Trump immunity decision from the Supreme Court and what it may mean for his future trials and current convictions. That's with Professor Richard Epstein from University of Chicago at 7:07. Now we check the headlines with Mike Scott.
CPD making more arrests after the Pride Parade. Authorities ID a man pulled from Lake Michigan. Democrats and Republicans are challenging third-party and independent candidates on the ballot. Cubs get set to host the Phillies, and WIND Chicago News Time is 7 o'clock.
Will the ruling at the Supreme Court let him off the hook in New York? I'm Dave Anthony, Fox News. Former President Trump hopes so.
Planning to use this ruling from the court yesterday to try to set aside that criminal conviction, or those criminal convictions in that New York business records case.
Fox's Doug Luzader.
The court ruled yesterday in this 6-3 decision that presidents have some level of immunity from criminal charges for official actions they take as president. No immunity for private actions, but where you draw that line is where things get kind of tricky.
President Biden calls the Supreme Court ruling dangerous.
That undermines the rule of law of this nation.
Fearing it would embolden his Republican rival, if elected again, to feel above the law.
The American people have to render a judgment about Donald Trump's behavior. The American people must decide whether Donald Trump's assault on our democracy on January 6th makes him unfit for public office in the highest office in the land.
House Speaker Mike Johnson tells Fox the president's reaction is
despicable and it is dangerous. The president has been trying to undermine our legal system.
As President Biden tries to shake off a shaky debate performance.
The Biden-Harris campaign announcing it raised $127 million in the month of June. $38 million of that raised in the 4 days following the first presidential debate. It was the best fundraising month of the campaign and brings the total to $240 million of cash on hand.
Fox's Sue Guzman. Today, President Biden will speak out about extreme weather, pushing a proposed new rule to establish new workplace safety standards for excessive heat. Beryl's the earliest Category 5 hurricane in the Atlantic ever, bearing down on Jamaica tomorrow.
The powerful storm made landfall on the island of Carriacou in Grenada Monday. Now emergency teams are moving in with supplies after widespread damage was reported on islands including Barbados and St. Vincent and the Grenadines.
Fox Weather's Nicole Valdez. At least 2 deaths are reported. America's listening to Fox News.
.66 degrees. 7:02 on AM 560, The Answer, and good morning. I'm Mike Scott. Multiple people facing charges this morning after Chicago police made a number of arrests in the hours after the so-called Pride Parade over the weekend. More than 50 arrests were made. Multiple officers were injured working to keep the area near the parade route safe late Sunday night. A 36-year-old man was injured in a stabbing on a CTA Red Line train on the north side. The attack occurred in the 1200 block of West Loyola around 11 p.m. One person was transported to St. Francis Hospital in good condition. Firefighters in the village of Dalton dropping a major bombshell during a board meeting Monday night as they demanded answers and raised concerns. According to Adam Ferrej, president of Local 3766, firefighters have been working with no contract now for close to 5 years.
We will continue to serve despite the fact our health insurance is not being paid, our retirement funds are being taken from us, and workers' compensation claims are not being handled properly. These are serious issues, and they need to be addressed and fixed immediately.
Members raised concerns about health insurance. Premiums are not being met, they say, which result in some members and their families' claims not only being denied but sent to collections. Emergency crews battled a large fire in Woodstock. Crews responded yesterday to the extra alarm blaze in a barn in the 1600 block of South Rose Farm Road. The barn was completely destroyed. A South Loop movie theater is now closed after 15 years. The Showplace Icon Theater and kitchen at the Roosevelt collection of shops had its final screening on Sunday night. Its parent company shut down all operations across the country. Cubs and Phillies tonight. White Sox take on the Guardians. The Blackhawks, a busy first day of free agency with some big signings, including former Maple Leafs forward Tyler Bertuzzi signing a 4-year contract worth $5.5 million annually. The news, a service of Quick Delivery Service. Visit quickdelivery.com when you need same-day delivery of your routes, ground delivery when you need it from safe, licensed professionals. Go to quickdelivery.com now to schedule your delivery. A check of traffic and weather on the way next on AM 560.
Windy City Safes in Niles wants to help you celebrate America this summer by giving away a Liberty Personal Home Safe. Enter to win from now until the 4th of July at 560theanswer.com/safe. That's 560theanswer.com/safe. And make sure to stop by Windy City Safe's showroom at 7310 North Milwaukee Avenue in Niles and receive a free American flag to display in your home or business while supplies last.
The IRS is the most powerful collection agency on earth. And if you owe back taxes, the news isn't good. The IRS has raised the interest rate it charges on unpaid taxes in recent years. This hits hard if you're behind on your taxes. Most people don't know it, but the IRS adds interest charges to your tax debts daily. If you owe the IRS today, you'll owe even more tomorrow. And it doesn't stop until you get right with the IRS. The good news is getting right can start with one phone call to Optima Tax Relief, America's #1 tax relief firm. Optima's tax professionals specialize in the Fresh Start Initiative, a powerful IRS program that can save you thousands if you qualify. A+ rated by the Better Business Bureau, the experts at Optima have resolved over $1 billion in tax debt for their clients. Call now for a free consultation.
Call 800-965-1433. 800-965-1433. 800-965-1433.
Optima Tax Relief.
Some restrictions apply. For complete details, please visit OptimaTaxRelief.com.
Raj Shah, host of Unleash Your Wealth.
You know, there are a lot of clients and people coming in from the radio into our office saying, I don't want to lose any money. I need to protect the money I have saved over the last 20 or 30 years, where you have strategies where you can structure an income stream where it has an inflation protection so that as inflation, if it continues to go up, your income will go up.
Unleash Your Wealth, Saturday at 7 a.m. and 2 p.m. on AM 560, The Answer.
From breaking news and weather across the country to insight from the brightest minds in conservative opinion, it's Salem News Channel, home to the biggest shows on TV, like Hugh Hewitt weekdays at 6 a.m. Eastern, followed by Mike Gallagher at 9. Join SNC, where facts are sacred, critical thinking is celebrated, and the pursuit of truth is unwavering. Watch Salem News Channel free, now on Zumo Play. Learn more at snc.tv/Zumo.
Balance of Nature's fruits and veggies supplements, changing the world one life at a time.
That's some good stuff, I'll tell you. It really works.
I'm just really pleased with your product. I've been using it now for 3 years.
I've been taking it for a while now. I feel better. I live on the Balance of Nature. I plan on taking it forever.
I've been a very happy customer. I like the product, and I'm telling a lot of people about it.
Splash into your summer with Balance of Nature's summer savings. Call 1-800-246-8751 or go to balanceofnature.com and sign up as a new preferred customer to get 50% off your first set with free shipping and our money-back guarantee. That's 1-800-246-8751. Don't miss out. This offer is only available while supplies last. Go to balanceofnature.com or call 1-800-246-8751 and get this limited time offer by using discount code Chicago.
7:07 coming up on 7:08. Let's get an update on the roads. Team Hochberg Traffic Center time, a service of Papa Nicholas Coffee, a Chicagoland tradition for over 5 generations, combining heritage and innovation in every cup. Hot air roasted locally, cold blended in small batches to ensure premium quality. Online at papanicholas.com. Eden's right now at 20 minutes, Lake Cook Road to the junction. The Kennedy at 39 minutes, O'Hare into the Burns Circle interchange. Accident on the outbound Ike. Right now you're jammed up at Racine and a right lane is blocked. It's an accident involving a motorcycle. Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan and Amy continues next. AM 560 Weather Center forecast with Steve Williams.
Cloudy this morning, then partly sunny by afternoon, a passing shower or two, the high 85. Breezy tonight, clouds and warm, a thunderstorm, low 71. A shower in spots early tomorrow morning, then partly sunny. The high tomorrow, 88. I'm Steve Williams on AM 560, The Answer.
67 at O'Hare's, 67 at Midway. Your next news update, 7:30. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next on AM 560, The Answer.
Now, from the Signature Bank Studios, this is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson on AM 560. The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan, and in for Amy J this morning, ABC 7 political reporter emeritus, Charles Thomas.
Good morning.
So we discussed the Supreme Court's ruling in the Trump immunity case a little bit earlier. We're going to discuss it again and again plumb the depths of the legal mind of one Professor Richard Epstein. But first, you know, the hue and cry from the left about this decision in which the Supreme Court essentially drew a line between the president's official acts and unofficial acts in terms of where immunity attaches. That would be with the official acts. And the official acts, though, within the confines of his Article 2 powers. It's such as willy-nilly, he so deems things official acts. So, in point of fact, no, he can't shoot someone on Fifth Avenue and get away with it. That's not an official act, though you wouldn't know that to listen to some of what you've heard, probably yesterday, including from Obama-era lawyers like his former Solicitor General, Neil Katyal. But it was also telegraphed, by the way, that this was where the Supreme Court was going to go, because, and not that you can always divine things from oral arguments, but it's just so commonsensical. And the backdrop is really important, that the left put the Supreme Court in this position by engaging in lawfare, and the Supreme Court rightly is very concerned about mutually assured destruction under color of law for the purpose of politics. Alito made that point in oral arguments with the DOJ's lawyer, legal representation.
Let me end with just a question about what is required for the functioning of a stable democratic society, which is something that we all want. I'm sure you would agree with me that a stable democratic society requires that a candidate who loses an election, even a close one, even a hotly contested one, leave office peacefully if that candidate is the incumbent.
Of course.
All right. Now, if an incumbent who loses a very close, hotly contested election knows that a real possibility after leaving office is not that the president is going to be able to go off into a peaceful retirement, but that the president may be criminally prosecuted by a bitter political opponent, will that not lead us into a cycle that destabilizes the functioning of our country as a democracy? And we can look around the world and find countries where we have seen this process, where the loser gets thrown in jail.
So I think it's exactly the opposite, Justice Alito. There are lawful mechanisms to contest the results in an election. And outside the record, but I think of public knowledge, petitioner and his allies filed dozens of electoral challenges, and my understanding is lost all but one that was not outcome determinative in any respect. There were judges that said in order to sustain substantial claims of fraud that would overturn an election result that's certified by a state, you need evidence, you need proof. And none of those things were manifested. So
yeah, but that's sort of unresponsive to the point that Alito was making in terms of facing a criminal prosecution and going back and forth. We win, we prosecute your guy, you win, you prosecute our guy, and we just go round and round, and where do you think that ends up? Neil Katyal, I mentioned, on MSNBC, providing his color on the decision.
I have not. And what she's signaling here is it's not just about the Trump January 6th case. It's about every president who goes forward, indeed possibly Trump next year, and being immune now from the criminal law to be able to use the Justice Department in ways the court today calls absolutely immune to undermine elections, to go after individuals. This is according to the dissent, which it seems like as grave a shift in our constitutional system as any in our lifetimes.
Let me, Neil, she's arguing that he can assassinate somebody now. Is that what this majority opinion is saying?
Yes, that is basically what she's saying the majority is saying, and I'm sure that is how Trump will take it.
Mm-hmm. Right. Sotomayor, in her dissent, is arguing that Trump can willy-nilly, and this is platformed by an officer of the court, Neil Katyal, which is embarrassing, that he can willy-nilly assassinate people he doesn't like for no particular reason or any particular reason.
And
that's not the majority opinion.
Yeah, that's one of the themes they repeat throughout the campaign, that Trump is somehow going to be this vengeful monster when he's elected. But the big problem they're having is that Donald J. Trump was president of the United States for 4 years, and we survived it. We lived through it. I mean, all of these horror stories that they're telling, they have to look at the facts of what happened.
They also are quick to dismiss the other two branches of government as irrelevant.
Yes.
maybe that's a little bit of that's Freudian in some sense. I don't know. For more on this decision, its impact, we're pleased to be joined again by Professor Richard Epstein, James Parker Hall, Distinguished Service Professor, Emeritus of Law, Senior Lecturer at the University of Chicago. Professor Epstein, thanks for being with us again.
It's always a pleasure to go to Adventures with Dan.
Adventures with Dan, legal travails with Dan, something like that. So the reading of Sonia Mayorda's dissent, if you could comment on that and what Katyal and MSNBC are saying about the prospect of Trump killing his political opponents?
Well, I mean, it's the prospect of Biden killing his political opponents. Let me begin by a kind of an interesting comparison. There was a recent case, Murphy against Missouri, in which it turned out many distinguished people, including my friend Jay Bhattacharya, were going after the Biden administration because what happened was they were essentially hounding everybody who disagreed with their positions by making promises and threats to the media platforms as to what went on. And then they go to court, and what does happen? Amy Coney Barrett, who's in the majority in this case, said none of these people have standing to do this. So what did they do? They essentially protected the Biden administration from some very, very serious stuff on the grounds that what's at stake here is only an individual complaint. What everybody knows what's at stake here is the institutional integrity of various branches of government. And so here you had systematic abuses of power by the Biden administration, which has gone completely unredressed. I have sued the Biden administration because it's an abusive practice in removing boards of visitors. And what happened is the Court of Appeals basically said you don't have standing to deal with any of this particular subject because the horribles that you feel had never happened. And so they talk out of both sides of their mouth on this particular situation. To make a third point about it, I guess it was at least once or twice during the course of the campaign, it turned out that Donald Trump said about Hillary Clinton, lock her up, lock her up, lock her up. And of course, we know the day he got into office, he prosecuted her for various crimes. No, what he did is, as he always does, he talks stupidly on the one hand, and then on his official role, he acts pretty much sensibly. If somehow or other they actually think that a president can go out and order say the murder of the guy who's the chief majority leader of the other party, they have to remember that impeachment is still something for high crimes and misdemeanor, and it would be so fast that that sanction would actually hold. But to put it otherwise, if they're trying to talk about the kind of extreme cases, those are the cases that really prompt very strong political retribution, and the impeachment process would start to hold wholly apart from the question of whether it could be subject. Let me mention the fourth point. They did one thing which I thought was a mistake, which is they basically defended the result in Clinton v. Jones. And remember, that was a case of action that took place, which was purely private, long before the president was in office. And they said, well, what could happen is you could start to take discovery. That was wrong. The correct way to deal with those cases is never to give the president any kind of immunity against the offense, but to say so long as you're serving as president of the United States, they can't take your deposition. What they can do is ask that the statute of limitations be extended so as to not be lost on the case, and that all documents be preserved, and that anything that you know you keep in the record, but you don't bring it. So I think, in effect, what they did is they gave too much to the opponents of the president rather than enough. And then as you look at the rather sad article that Larry Tribe wrote in the New York Times, he never mentions what the particular offenses are, but he says somehow or other we have the right to know about this. You may have a right to know about it, and there are thousands of ways to do it, but a trial in the District Court of Columbia, which is going to repeat of what happened with Alvin Bragg in New York, doesn't tell you anything about the president. It tells you everything about the political process.
So when Sotomayor says, and I'm quoting from her dissent, in every use of official power, the president is now a king above the law. How do you respond to that?
Well, I mean, if there's impeachment out there, it's crazy. If there are elections out there, it's crazy. If there are political repercussions out there in the short run, it's crazy. What happens is whenever you're dealing with an immunity issue, you're dealing with two kinds of abuses. That of prosecuting too much and that of prosecuting too little. If you prosecute too little, there are a whole series of other sanctions that I just mentioned that call into play. But if you prosecute too much, there's nothing else that you can do to get out of this thing. You're like Trump in New York, where he's fought, but either in the case having to do with the money and in the case having to do with the so-called irregularity. Prosecution essentially dominates the scheme, whereas in non-prosecution, other things are in there. So to give you but another example, we have tried for a very long time to ask the question of whether or not there can be prosecutions brought against public officials for malice if they act within the outer perimeter of their duty. That's a phrase that was used this time. It first came into great prominence in a case called Barr v. Mateo in 1959, in which it turned out that Justice Solomon said, no, we're not going to allow these suits, too much trouble. There are disciplinary procedures that can be used, for example, by somebody who abuses his power, and there are political checks against it. Well, they got rid of that rule for a while. And what they discovered is every time you allow an action for malice, every case is a triable case. Because so long as you have political motivations lurking in the background, you have to take depositions to figure out what's going on. And one of the things that Roberts did that was correct, he said, this is not a motive inquiry. And sure enough, when they did this, they did it for a while, and then they had to restore the absolute immunity because the other system simply did not work. And so there's a kind of a history about how this works in lower cases, and the same rules and the same trade-offs that apply with minor official and small disputes are the very rules that apply when you're dealing with the president in these high-stakes games.
The other thing on this too that Roberts did in the majority opinion, and this needs to be included in the conversation. Yeah, the president's official act. The president just can declare what I did in this instance was an official act. A prosecutor can say, well, it wasn't an official act, but the burden is on him to demonstrate, to present the evidence that it's not an official act, and thus it has legal exposure. Well, that's how it should be.
Well, that is surely correct on this. I mean, there is another view of this, and I'm a little more hawkish even in the court on one thing. I think it often does happen that there is abusive stuff, but I think in some sense it's better off to initiate these actions, in the other political process after everything happens. I don't want anything to be brought against the president while he's in service. And this is my rough rule, is anything that the president gets that's protected while he's in service, you can't let him be sued for it afterwards because of all the chain of horrors that was mentioned by Justice Alito when he talked about the situation. Who is going to, if Biden does something stupid, which he has, he's to be protected while in office, but do we want the question of whether he could assert the privilege to depend on what his successor in the office starts to think? And that was the thinking about this that took place a year ago. It's crazy. The immunity has to be used or waived by the party against whom the charges are brought, and not by a successor in office who may be his enemy or may be his friend. And so I think that this should be understood in light of the insurrection charges that the Supreme Court put aside. It is absolutely institutionally crazy to say that the Secretary of State of Maine can take a president off of the United States off the ballot where she thinks he's engaged in an insurrection. And you have to stop that, and you have to stop this. The key thing is anything that Trump did is fair game for political stuff. And in fact, my view is he's paid a very heavy price. If you had Nikki Haley running this election, she'd be ahead by 20 points. What's happened is the downdrift of what Trump did has made this into a close election where any other Republican would have walked away with everything. So there is a price that's being paid right now. The problem is the bigger price is being paid by Biden because, amongst other things, he does not want that tape to come out with her because it would show, and this is very important, it would show that he was non-compos mentis to a very serious degree, not just on the day of this debate, but 6 months or a year ago. And so this is a chronic deteriorating position. And the thought that somehow or other, if you have these two data points, what you can say is, he's just going to rehabilitate himself and like Phoenix coming up from the ashes, be a bold new president. That's not the case. He has degenerative conditions. It's only going to get worse. The reporters know all of this. The White House knows all of this. But just as they did this with the COVID people, they managed to suppress everything on the opposite side. Read the front page story on the New York Times, how it is that Biden managed to snuff out every bit of political opposition. And that fellow from Minnesota who ran against him, he's not even running for re-election. That's how powerful the Biden forces are. These guys are masters at revenge. And the idea that somehow or other he and his attorney general and his designee should determine the fate of a national election is really a threat to democracy. And I'm afraid that Justice Sotomayor has just lost all of her moorings on this particular stuff. She now sounds like a whining politician rather than a Supreme Court justice.
He is Professor Richard Epstein, the James Parker Hall Distinguished Service Professor, Emeritus of Law and Senior Lecturer at the University of Chicago. Professor Epstein, thank you as always. Appreciate it.
Okay, my pleasure. Take care.
Take care. He joined us on the Turnkey.Pro answer line.
Connect with Dan and Amy on the AM 560 The Answer mobile app. Just text the word app to 64636 to download the app today.
One of the most important decisions you can make as a parent is where you send your kids to school. But these days, it's never been harder to know which school is best. Public schools have changed a lot, and you might be thinking about sending your child to a private Christian school. But you also know that private school can be expensive, and in this economy, you might think it's not an option. Well, think again. With halfpriceschools.com, you can purchase tuition vouchers for half the price of normal tuition for private schools. For nearly 10 years, halfpriceschools.com has helped families from all over Chicagoland make the dream of private school a reality. And that can be the reality for you and your child, too. Just go to halfpriceschools.com, search for a private Christian school near you, and purchase a voucher. It's that easy. Visit halfpriceschools.com. That's halfpriceschools.com.
I know we're getting several messages, people disagreeing with Professor Epstein about whether or not Nikki Haley would be up by 20 points. Yeah, I get it.
Yeah, I don't know about all that. But,
no, I get it. Right.
But there's one thing I was thinking about it when we were speaking earlier. I mean, Nikki Haley, somebody I absolutely would never support to be president of the United States, but man, she made her the principal theme, or one of the principal themes in her campaign, man, is ringing very loudly right now, which is that this business with Biden, I mean, a month from now, Kamala Harris could be president of the United States. I mean, Biden is that shaky.
Well, and that's something that they're trying desperately to avoid, I think.
Oh, but man,
but
think how close she is.
Very. We'll discuss that. First, we need to discuss this. If you're often feeling tired, lacking motivation and drive, gaining weight, or noticing a loss of muscle mass, these could all be signs of low testosterone. Do not wait. Find out. At Low T Center, they make it easy to get your levels checked. It's just a simple blood test, and with our on-site lab, you can get your results back in about 25 minutes. Low T Center is not your typical doctor's office. It's concierge medicine for men. Their physicians specialize in treating low testosterone with customized treatment for each patient. Low T Center's experts have more than a decade of experience helping patients achieve life-changing results, and most health insurance is accepted for treatment. For established patients with stable T levels, Low T also offers physician-monitored self-inject treatment plan that ships directly to your home each month, so there's no need to come into the office for weekly visits. And at Low T Center, your BMI and health can also be evaluated for treatment with prescription weight loss medication. So get back to your best. Go to lowtcenter.com to book your appointment today. Again, that's lowtcenter.com. Low T Center, reinventing men's healthcare.
When you're in chronic pain, you're miserable to be around, and so are the people who have to watch you suffer. So stop it. Do something about it. Now's the time to be proactive and take care of yourself. And there's another solution other than surgery or drugs. Call QC Kinetics. QC Kinetics, they have a cutting-edge treatment that revitalizes your joints with your body's own healing process. So if you have arthritis or if you're in pain in your knees, hips, shoulder, back due to an injury, you need to call QC Kinetics today for a free consultation and get your life and mobility back. You know, I've been to one of their clinics. I met a few of their customers. They were smiling from ear to ear, so happy to have their mobility back, pain-free, without surgery. They have locations all across the Chicagoland area, including new locations in Crystal Lake and Gurnee. Call for a free consultation, 312-809-5955. That's 312-809-5955, 312-809-5955.
This is Sean Thompson. When you go on vacation, does it make sense to have somebody else pack for you? Of course not. The same can be said for your retirement. Your 401k could be packed with things you don't know about or even need. If you're close to retirement, but you don't have a plan customized to your goals, it's like kind of taking a 30-year vacation with no idea what's in the suitcase. Sounds like a stressful way to begin what should be a relaxing time. Tom Fortino at Alpha Wealth Group can help you unpack your savings and build a plan to reduce future taxes, address Social Security and healthcare, and a whole lot more, all with a clear, defined income strategy. Call the Alpha Wealth Group at 630-934-1855. Ask for the complimentary retirement plan. That's 630-934-1855 or online at alphawealthgroup.com. And listen to the Alpha Wealth Hour Saturday mornings at 9 a.m. right here on AM 560.
Advisory services through Retirement Wealth Advisors, LLC, and SEC Registered Investment Advisor. Insurance and annuities offered through Alpha Wealth Group, licensed in Illinois.
AM 560, The Answer.
All right, coming up at 7:37, our weekly installment of all things Illinois policy related with Ted Dabrowski from wirepoints.org. They got new IRS data on outmigration that we sort of mentioned in passing yesterday, and a new study on 911 response calls, which we mentioned, but bears repeating, as well as all the laws that took effect. The new laws from your betters in Springfield, passed by your betters, signed by your bigger, better governor, and took effect yesterday. Talk about that all with Ted Dabrowski at 7:37. Now we check the headlines with Mike Scott.
68 degrees at 7:32. Former President Trump's victory in the Supreme Court over immunity sparking intense reaction from both parties this morning. The justices ruling 6-3 that the former president has limited immunity in the federal election interference case for acts he took while in office. And Florida attorney Richard Serafini says the ruling finds that he does have limited immunity and it is good for Donald Trump.
Seems at this point to be a mixed bag, but probably a little bit more good news for Donald Trump than for Jack Smith. Maybe a lot more good news for Donald Trump.
Democrats are hammering the court. A politically weakened President Joe Biden claimed the court's decision sets a dangerous precedent.
The American people must decide. They want to entrust the president once again, the presidency, to Donald Trump, now knowing he'll be even more emboldened to do whatever he pleases whenever he wants to do it.
In other news this morning, American victims of Hamas's October 7 terror attacks on Israel are now suing Iran, Syria, and North Korea over their support of the terrorist group. California has a new law requiring bars and clubs to offer drug testing, protecting customers from spiked drinks. It makes free or reasonably priced testing kits mandatory. The tests will be in the form of strips, stickers, straws, or other devices. Multiple people facing charges after Chicago police made a number of arrests in the hours after the so-called Pride Parade over the weekend. Police had objects thrown at them. Several were injured. More than 50 arrests were made. More than 87,000 people moved out of Illinois, taking with them nearly $10 billion in income, according to the latest IRS data. For well over a year, Governor J.B. Pritzker has denied the state's population decline, saying the census is getting it wrong.
You should take what I'm saying as truth, that actually when we count people, it turns out we're gaining.
The IRS data clearly shows between calendar years 2021 and 2022, the number of people flowing into Illinois was nearly 177,000. The number flowing out, 264,000, a net loss of 87,286. Total income lost around $9.8 billion, $4.1 billion of that going to Florida. Cubs and Phillies at Wrigley Field tonight while the White Sox begin a series with Cleveland. Bulls signed center Jalen Smith to a 3-year free agent contract away from Indiana worth $27 million. The news, a service of Waukegan Roofing. For commercial roofing, replace or repair, contact the company that has been replacing and repairing commercial roofs in Chicagoland since 1914 and shares your values. WaukeganRoofing.com. Emergencies welcome. A check of traffic and weather on the way next on AM 560.
Windy City Safes in Niles wants to help you celebrate America this summer by giving away a Liberty personal home safe. Enter to win from now until the 4th of July at 560theanswer.com/safe. That's 560theanswer.com/safe. And make sure to stop by Windy City Safe's showroom at 7310 North Milwaukee Avenue in Niles and receive a free American flag to display in your home or business while supplies last.
It's Reveille. Did it really take a debate like Thursday night's for Democrats and the media to see how mentally and physically weak President Biden is? How incapable he is of making decisions that can mean life and death. One would truly have to be so ideologically blind to not have written some of the headlines that were written on Friday, long before the debate happened. The New York Times. To serve his country, President Biden should leave the race. The Atlantic. Time to go, Joe. From his stilted walk to the podium, to his mumbling through responses, to the blank stare between questions, there was no spinning Joe Biden as a capable, alert leader who should have the nuclear codes and be able to call our young men and women to war. The question shouldn't be whether or not he should stay in the race. The question should be, why is he even still the president, with all the awesome and frightening power that brings? Who is running the country? It isn't Joe Biden. And no one should be okay with that. We are being lied to by his staff, the deep state that surrounds him, and Democrat politicians who turn a blind eye to it all. But now there are no more lies to be told, no more covering for Joe, no more half-truths from his press secretary about cheap fake videos of his stumbling about and wandering off. None of this is funny. None of this is something to be taken as just politics. Threats to democracy, insurrection, obstruction of justice? What do you call the fact that unelected bureaucrats are making decisions and hiding it from the electorate? The American people deserve a competent leader and to know who is really running the country. I'm Jeannie Ives. To learn more, listen to my radio show Sunday from 7 to 9 p.m. and sign up for my newsletter at breakthrough-ideas.com. That's breakthrough-ideas.com.
For over 10 years, the award-winning KWCC Construction has been building a better future locally and throughout the Midwest, constructing with detailed planning and execution, completing projects safely, timely, and with transparency. If you've ever visited the Wilder Park Promenade along the Riverwalk in Aurora or driven past the recently revitalized Copley Hospital, you're looking at the quality construction of KWCC. Maybe you've seen the adaptive reuse of 80 South River Street in downtown Aurora, which now includes residences and businesses that have revitalized the area. No matter the project, KWCC Construction offers services from indoors to outdoors, conception to completion. In fact, KWCC was recognized as 2022's Best Project in Landscape and Urban Development. Highly recommended. A general contracting company you can count on. That's KWCC. To request a proposal for your project, visit kwccinc.com. That's kwccinc.com.
Don't let a cold, sinus infection, or allergies ruin your day. Breathe easier, sleep better, and feel healthier with Navage. Visit Navage.com, Walmart, Walgreens, CVS, or a store near you.
7:39. Let's get an update on the roads. Team Hochberg Traffic Center time is a service of Papa Nicholas Coffee, hot air roasted locally and cold blended in small batches to ensure premium quality. Choose Papa Nicholas Coffee because great coffee is their family tradition. Online at papanicholas.com. Kennedy inbound 42 O'Hare to the Burns Circle interchange. I-55 accident, left lane blocked, northbound right at US 30. Traveling on the Reagan, construction bottling up an off-ramp to the DeKalb Oasis. It's on the westbound side this morning. Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan and Amy continues next. Now, your official Chicagoland weather forecast. Breezy with a shower this morning. Clouds and sun with a pop-up shower or thunderstorm this afternoon. High 85. Currently 67. Next news coming up at 8. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next on AM 560, The Answer.
Now, from the Signature Bank Studios.
Insert Democrat socialist here.
Runs the Democratic House floor for 30 plus years running. He's promising this and he's stealing that. Where can you get that kind of money? He's using your house like his own piggy bank. You ought to know by now. You can pay off your house here in Illinois, but you can never keep up with the taxes. Oh, how it's always been the plan to have a taxpayer pay, no doubt. Not a matter of if anymore, but when you're moving out.
Top of the morning, Dan, and in Framey J, ABC political reporter emeritus, Charles Thomas.
That's me.
And that theme music means it's time for our weekly confab with Ted Dabrowski, president of WirePoints, wirepoints.org, all things Illinois policy related. There's a lot of Illinois policy to discuss and its impact, the impact of Illinois policy, which is always interesting. Because so many new laws took effect yesterday, Charles. Like, for example, gas tax increase, rising by 2 cents a gallon to now 47 cents a gallon. It's the second highest in the nation. We're coming for you. Who's number one? California? Hawaii? Whoever's number one, we're coming for you. Guarantee you that.
47 cents per gallon.
Yeah.
Man.
Mm-hmm.
I'm old enough to remember you get 2 gallons for 47 cents.
Yeah, that's just the taxes.
That's just the taxes.
Yeah, state taxes on it. Mm-hmm. So that'll be like $185 more a year than it was in 2019. But again, can you really put a price on good government? Of course you can't.
Or good gas.
Or good, or good gas. Also, the tax on sports wagering is increasing. I hope my degenerate friends take notice. And we'll move from a 15% flat tax to a progressive rate of up to 35%.
Really? That's a bet you make on the Bears to beat this team or this guy to catch this many passes.
Well, I mean,
all
right.
the bets.
Yeah.
And it's what you win that they're going to tax?
No,
or what you bet?
No, it'll be on the provider side, right? Sports wagering tax increase on the provider side based like they tax casinos, but of course those taxes are passed on to the customers, of course. So yeah, you don't want to bet, but they're going to bring in $200 million in new revenue. They say it'll come in under that probably.
With that tax, or all of them?
No, just that tax.
Just that tax?
Yeah, that's what they say. That's but I mean $200 million. I mean, that's
that's a couple of weeks in the shelter for the immigrants.
Yeah, I mean we're spend $5 to $10 billion on migrants alone.
Yeah,
I mean that's chump change.
Dan, think about it, man. What JB has brought us, he's brought us this gaming, expanded gaming. I mean, then he's brought us expanded weed, recreational weed, and then of course he makes Illinois the destination for abortions in the Midwest.
Right.
And he's got big capital projects in the works. He's going to build a couple of prisons. I wonder who's going to go to those.
I know where this is going. When is he going to legalize prostitution? I know.
I mean,
I hear you. Yeah. When is he going to legalize hard drugs, not just marijuana?
Well, that's in the works.
Yeah.
I can see that happening.
I got you. When is he going to go back and try and get that state income tax graduated so rich honkies pay more? I know. I hear you.
Yeah. Well,
I hear you. One can hope. One can dream.
JB at work, man. He's in 6 years now. What is that? What it is?
6 glorious years.
Glorious years, man. All the new jobs and all the new companies and all the billionaires that are leaving and
leaving. Wait, you heard on Mike Scott's newscast, JB Pritzker. Don't believe the numbers. He's done his own count, and people are moving. We're adding people.
He's gaining.
We're gaining.
He's gaining. JB is gaining. That's the headline. JB is gaining.
For more on this, please be joined by Ted Dabrowski. Ted, thanks for joining us.
Good morning. Yeah, JB counts the buses coming in, and he knows how many immigrants are coming in, and he's looking at the schools and seeing all the kids that are there, and knows how many other immigrants have come into other places, and yeah, he's adding the numbers.
So we net lost 88,000 people last year, 23, according to IRS data, right? That was just the research that you did over at wirepoints.org. There's details there. But that's more than made up for by the influx of people in this country and thus in this state illegally. And that's the play, apparently. And then we finance those people to be here illegally while the people leaving are making a lot more than the people coming.
Yeah, I mean, just add it all up, and it becomes a big mess. The people that are leaving are making much more than the people who are coming in. And of course, the IRS can't track the immigrants who don't file taxes. So you'll have another slew of not just the 40,000 that we know of that have coming on buses. There's a whole bunch that have come in just through the porous border. So we get our share of those. So we're getting poorer even as we lose people because man, I tell you that there's a big difference in incomes between those leaving and those coming in. I have the numbers here somewhere, but it's like a $40,000 gap.
Yeah,
it's
and I saw Florida, which led the nation in migration according to IRS data again. So if you don't like those numbers, JB, just blame the IRS. The Florida, which led the nation in migration, something like north of 200,000 new residents on net, and their spread was like plus 60,000 in terms of people moving in versus moving out.
Yeah, I mean, think about that. What that does for your economy, right? You swap out people. Not only do you gain 250,000 new people, right? But on average, they're making almost 160,000 a year, and the people who you do lose are making about 100,000. So it's a great way to boom your economy. It's great for people who have homes in Florida. Home values go up, their nest eggs go up, and of course it creates a vibrancy that they have in Florida, which we don't have in Illinois.
I wanted to get to another report you put out this week that's important, and Charles and I discussed this yesterday, but let's do it again. The report on 911 calls for last year, this is the second year in a row you've done this report, and it's jarring. And not just the fact that fewer than half of 911 calls on major related to major crimes are responded to in a timely fashion by an officer. But I just go back that less than 50% of 911 calls saying a person has been shot, less than half, are responded to in a timely fashion by police.
Yeah, I think you capture the dysfunction of we capture several dysfunctions, but this is one where we've messed up policing so bad in the criminal justice system that there were 1,800 calls for somebody being shot, and only 800 of those, so fewer than half, had police available to respond, but the others had to wait. Can you imagine that? I mean, that's how bad it's become, and it's not just for this; it's the same thing for assaults and for robberies, all kinds of violent crimes. There's just not half of the time there's no police available to immediately respond. It's criminal the other way, right? We've totally messed up our safety system so badly.
Well, the other thing I noticed about that, I mean, in addition to that just being an astounding number, the 1,800 calls person shot. Well, in 2023, there were 3,077 people shot, according to HeyJackass.com. So what? 1,200 people aren't even nobody's even bothering to call them in, right?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, no, that's another huge problem, right? Because these are all tied together. Our arrest rates, right? Our arrest rates in Chicago for major crimes is 5%. So of all crimes that are of violent nature, only 5% ends up in an arrest. And so what happens is, if the police aren't coming, if you know that somebody's not going to get arrested, if you know people don't care, the criminal justice system doesn't care, why even bother calling? And I think that's a big part of what we hear sometimes, that people don't bother to call in. I don't know about person shot, but people don't bother to call in, smaller crimes anymore.
That's absolutely true in certain neighborhoods in Chicago. They don't call anymore. I mean, that's just what happens. That's part of living here. Somebody almost has to get shot for there to be a call.
And then you're a coin flip at best that you get a response in a timely fashion. And as we were talking about yesterday, that includes, paramedics. You need medical attention, obviously, when you get shot, no matter where you got shot. And I mean, it's just like I don't know how people just stay desensitized to that sort of data. I really don't.
Well, if it's happening in your neighborhood every day, really every day, there's a robbery, a burglary, or whatever, at some point you just write it off. Personally, why?
You write it off.
What are the cops going to do? What are the cops going to do?
Right.
That's the reaction.
Well, you write it off or you leave, and that's what we keep seeing in South Cook County, right? You see a lot of the black flight, and it's not trivial. It's not a trivial amount. It's a big amount, and a lot of that has to do with, again, one of the other big facts we had on here is that since 2019, the number of beat cops is down by 20%. It's down by almost 1,400 officers. So no wonder you can't get to crime scenes, because you're missing a lot of the beat cops. Now, what's not clear to me is where they are. Are they all doing desk jobs, or are they all filling out consent decree forms all the time, and therefore they're not out on the beat? But that needs to be solved. But Charles, I wish you were still in the media, because you might ask Governor Pritzker these things, and Chicago Mayor Brant Johnson. You may ask them these questions, but nobody else seems to want to care about this, as Dan says, or challenge it.
Nobody does. I mean, I've noticed that. I've certainly noticed that, Ted.
Well, we're too busy celebrating the minimum wage increase to $16.20 an hour. So that's wonderful. That'll do a nice job. It'll in furtherance of youth unemployment, and particularly black youth unemployment, right?
Yeah, that's one of my biggest pet peeves is Brandon Johnson saying that he wants to hire. They want to create government jobs for the summer for young people, as opposed to actually letting the economy grow. Lowering the cost of doing business in Chicago, and therefore letting young people actually get real jobs rather than these fake government jobs.
Yeah. Any other these new laws that went into effect on Monday that you want to take judicial notice of? The undocumented immigrants, meaning illegal immigrants, now eligible for driver's licenses. That one, for example.
Yeah, that's the big one. We keep giving them more rights. We keep making it easier for those. We keep incentivizing them to come here. Think about it, right? If you come here, and we've talked about this, and you get housing, and you get money, and then you get a driver's license. We're just incentivizing more and more and more people to come over the border because Chicago is an easy place to make it. And I've always said, my parents are both immigrants, and they both came to Chicago, and they did it out, and they were part of the American dream. But it was done properly, not in this open border way where we have no control, no idea what's going on, and of course the massive costs involved that puts these migrants in front of the line, in front of all the ordinary residents we have in Chicago.
Ted Dabrowski, president of WirePoints, wirepoints.org, all things Illinois policy related. Thanks, Ted.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Ted.
And he joined us on the Turnkey.pro answer line.
Hear about the big stories of the day, then talk about them right here on Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
Are you a driver of a Ford PowerStroke diesel engine? Tired of taking your Ford PowerStroke diesel in to be misdiagnosed or paying for repairs that don't fix the problem? Well, bring your vehicle to the diesel headquarters, Remke's Garage. The shop is equipped with state-of-the-art diagnostic equipment and highly trained technicians. Take it to the experts. Take it to Remke's Garage. Remke's Garage specializes in Ford PowerStroke, Chevy Duramax, Dodge Cummins, Mercedes Sprinter, and Isuzu diesel engines and transmission repairs. At Remke's, they'll make your vehicle repairs convenient by offering a free commercial loaner vehicle.
Remke's Garage, where you won't spend $1,000 to fix a $100 problem. Call for details and to schedule an appointment at 800-5-REMKES or visit remkesgarage.com. Remke's Garage, your diesel headquarters.
From breaking news and weather across the country to insight from the brightest minds in conservative opinion, it's Salem News Channel, home to the biggest shows on TV, like Brandon Tatum weekdays at 6 p.m. Eastern, followed by Charlie Kirk at 7. Join SNC, where facts are sacred, critical thinking is celebrated, and the pursuit of truth is unwavering. Watch Salem News Channel free, now on Zumo Play. Learn more at snc.tv/Zumo.
Finding the right dentist for you and your family, one that you can build trust and confidence in and develop a long-term relationship with, can be difficult. If consistency in your dental care done in a compassionate and caring environment is important to you, then here's someone you should meet.
Hi, I'm Dr. Phil Fidgel of Broadway Family Dental Group. We've been blessed to care for generations of families and make building strong relationships with our patients a priority. Kids I treated early on in my practice now bring their own kids in. My partner, Dr. Michelle Nebelsberger, Dr. K as she's known in the office, started as a patient when she was 3. It's our goal to create a dental home where we can improve and then maintain your oral health, contributing to your overall health. This is my personal invitation to join us, kids, adults, and seniors. We have all the services and technologies, but most importantly, we have good people who want to take good care of you.
Broadway Family Dental Group, 847-824-5252. 847-824-5252.
Are you turning 65 and thinking about Medicare? Or are you over 65 and haven't enrolled yet because you still have coverage at work? Either way, Medicare done correctly will be the best health insurance you will ever have. Imagine having an annual deductible of only $240. There are only 2 good things about aging, wisdom and Medicare. But to navigate the Medicare maze properly, you need a mentor. Best part, my guidance cost you nothing. Call me. I can help.
If you're tired of calling a bureaucrat at an 800 number to help you navigate Medicare, then you need a local expert on your side, your own health insurance mentor. C. Stephen Tucker from healthinsurancementors.com is someone I know and trust. He's a 30-year licensed broker who's been educating our listeners for more than a decade. Steve, how can our listeners get in touch with you?
Thanks, Dan. They can visit healthinsurancementors.com or call me directly at 630-674-1551. That's 630-674-1551.
At Signature Bank, going the distance for business banking customers is what we do every day. We understand that business owners have a strategic mission, a drive to succeed, a plan for growth, and don't have time to wait for a bank to respond. With Signature Bank, you not only have a banking partner that has roots right here in Chicago, but our decisions are made locally too. Signature Bank knows that when you have a question or problem about your business, you want answers. You need someone who will pick up the phone or respond to your text. You need someone who is always there for you. That's Signature Bank. We are a team that wants to get to know you and your business. Want to be Signature Bank's next success story? Give us a call today at 773-467-5630 or visit us online at signaturebank.bank. Member FDIC Equal Housing Lender.
Balance of Nature's fruits and veggies supplements, changing the world one life at a time.
I've been watching it on TV, and then my soul has my husband, and I guess he just called up and surprised me. He had ordered it, and I didn't expect it for me to notice it so right away. I kind of shocked my husband when I told him. I've been taking it like a little over a week. I'm taking it, and then I can already notice a difference. I do feel very good. I can't even put it into words. I feel really good every day. I don't wake up grouchy. I'd love everybody to think it. I think it's wonderful.
Splash into your summer with Balance of Nature's summer savings. Go to balanceofnature.com and sign up as a new preferred customer to get 50% off your first set. Don't miss out. This offer is only available while supplies last. Go to balanceofnature.com or call 1-800-246-8751 and get this limited time offer by using discount code Chicago.
AM 560, The Answer.
Coming up at 8:08, we'll talk to Georgetown law professor Randy Barnett about yesterday's Supreme Court holding in the Trump immunity case and whether or not Trump will have any success getting his conviction set aside because of said ruling. That's 8:08. Now we check the headlines with Mike Scott.
CPD makes more than 50 arrests in the hours following the Pride Parade. Authorities ID a man pulled from Lake Michigan. Cubs host the Phillies, and the White Sox will visit the Guardians. WIND Chicago News Time, 8 o'clock.
He hopes the Supreme Court exonerated him. I'm Dave Anthony, Fox News. Former President Trump hopes the immunity ruling out of Washington could halt his sentencing next week in New York.
Former President Trump's lawyers have sent a letter to Judge Juan Merchan, who oversaw the hush money trial, in a bid to set aside the guilty verdict. It was filed on Monday, just hours after the release of the Supreme Court opinion that said presidents are immune from federal prosecution for official acts while in office. The former president was convicted in May of 34 felony counts that were related to hush money paid to an adult film star in the run-up to the 2016 election.
Fox's Tanya J. Powers, the business records falsification he was convicted of actually took place during the Trump presidency. Now, the Supreme Court did clarify the unofficial actions a president takes are not immune. President Biden calls the ruling a dangerous precedent.
This nation was founded on the principle that there are no kings in America.
But his biggest concern is
Any president, including Donald Trump, will now be free to ignore the law.
President Biden just had his best fundraising month in a year, raising $127 million, about a quarter of it after the debate that even Democrats say was bad.
The Biden campaign is pointing to internal polling that they say shows the face of the race hasn't changed. They insist the president knows how to turn things around, but they are having a hard time convincing donors. Axios said this about a Zoom call the Biden campaign had with donors on Monday. It was a damage control call, one participant said.
Fox's Madeline Rivera at the White House today. The president will campaign in Virginia. Hurricane Beryl's a Category 5 monster bearing down on Jamaica tomorrow after doing a lot of damage, still being assessed on islands from Barbados to Grenada to the Grenadines. At least 2 deaths reported. A man-made disaster in India. A stampede during a religious gathering. At least 60 people were killed, more than 100 others in the crowd now hospitalized. America's listening to
Skies are gray, some rain on the way, 68 degrees and 8:02 on AM 560. The Answer. Good morning. I'm Mike Scott. Multiple people facing charges after Chicago police made a number of arrests in the hours after the so-called Pride Parade over the weekend. Multiple police officers were injured. More than 50 arrests were made. Authorities have identified the man pulled from Lake Michigan at Montrose Beach yesterday. Marine units responded to a call of a man lost in the water. Officers pulled Albert Nazaroff out of the water and immediately rushed him to a nearby hospital where he later died. Firefighters in Dalton dropped a major bombshell during a board meeting Monday night. They demanded answers and raised questions and concerns over retirement funds, workmen's compensation, and union dues.
We will continue to serve despite the fact our health insurance is not being paid, our retirement funds are being taken from us, and workers' compensation claims are not being handled properly. These are serious issues, and they need to be addressed and fixed immediately.
According to Adam Farage, the president of the Local 3766, firefighters have been working with no contract now for close to 5 years. Cubs and Phillies tonight. White Sox begin a series with Cleveland after taking 2 of 3 from the Rockies over the weekend. And the Bulls have signed former Pacers center Jalen Smith to a 3-year free agent contract worth $27 million. It's 8:03, time for the AM 560 Business Beat, a service of Signature Bank. Visit signaturebank.bank for all your commercial banking needs. Now, the latest from the Fox Business Network.
I'm Elizabeth McDonald, and this is the Fox Business Report.
Moderna is getting $176 million from the U.S. government to develop a messenger RNA-based bird flu vaccine for humans. This as health officials step up efforts in response to a growing outbreak among farm animals. The H5N1 bird flu has been detected on poultry farms in almost every U.S. state and in dairy herds in a dozen states, making it the biggest outbreak in recent years. 3 dairy workers have also been infected because of exposure to cattle. And inflation news in from the Eurozone showing that crept lower to 2.5% in June for the 20-nation bloc. The figure out today was down from 2.6% in May, but key indicators suggest inflation may remain stuck between 2 and 3% for a while. That's your Fox Business Report. I'm Lillian Wu, invested in you.
8:04 and a check of traffic and weather on the way next on AM 560.
Charlie Kirk says there should be more charges.
Now, let's be frank. This is not what Hunter Biden should be getting prosecuted for. We have to be very honest. Or it's not even remotely the only thing he's done wrong. In fact, that we know of. There are hundreds of crimes here. Foreign agent registration crimes, potential cyber privacy crimes.
The Charlie Kirk Show. Afternoons at 1, right before Sebastian Gorka at 3 on AM 560. The Answer.
There's an issue cutting through the bipartisan bickering in Congress. It's AM radio. The overwhelming majority of legislators, Democrats and Republicans, support a bill to keep AM radio in cars. But time is running out. Text AM to 52886 and ask Congress to bring this bill to the floor for a vote now. AM radio is too important to let this moment pass us by.
Message and data rates may apply. You may receive up to 4 messages a month, and you may text STOP to stop.
This message furnished by the National Association of Broadcasters.
As a family-owned business, your complete satisfaction means the world to Audi Morton Grove. We are dedicated to making the McGrath experience your best experience. Whether you're looking to buy a new Audi, in for service, or just taking a test drive, Audi Morton Grove will always give you the personal attention you deserve. For your convenience, we are now open Sundays for service. Visit us at 7000 Gulf Road in Morton Grove or online at audimortongrove.com. Service, value, reputation. That's the power of McGrath.
Wesley Financial Group is not a law firm. An important message about your timeshare from Chuck McDowell, founder of Wesley Financial Group.
If you receive an unsolicited phone call or mail piece to discuss selling, renting, or especially canceling your timeshare, don't fall for it. Contact your timeshare resort or Wesley Financial Group for assistance, and I'll send you our timeshare exit information kit free with the straight facts about timeshare cancellation.
Call 800-887-1010. 800-887-1010.
For years now, people have been switching their wireless service to Pure Talk to save money. Just $20 a month, you get unlimited talk and text and tons of data. But more people are switching to Pure Talk, a veteran-owned company, to support the America's Warrior Partnership and their mission to help prevent veteran suicide. To make the switch, dial pound 250, say the keyword SAVE NOW, and you'll be connected to Pure Talk's U.S. customer service team. Make the switch, same service, save money, help vets, pound 250, keyword SAVE NOW.
8:07, and let's get an update on the roads. Team Hochberg Traffic Center time. And this update is a service of Crosscom Public Adjusters. Handling an insurance claim for your home and business is difficult. Crosscom will help you maximize your claim and get what you need. They've helped thousands. CrosscomPublicAdjusters.com. The Kennedy 53 now. O'Hare into the Burn Circle interchange. Ike inbound. Accident. 2 right lanes blocked between First Avenue and California. And a right lane is blocked inbound at Cicero with a reported accident as well. Dan Ryan, 23 and climbing right now. 95th into the Burn Circle interchange. Vehicle fire on I-57 inbound just before Halstead. Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan and Amy continues next. AM 560 Weather Center forecast with Steve Williams.
Cloudy this morning, then partly sunny by afternoon, a passing shower or two, the high 85. Breezy tonight, clouds and warm, a thunderstorm, low 71. A shower in spots early tomorrow morning, then partly sunny, the high tomorrow 88. I'm Steve Williams on AM 560, The Answer.
68 degrees at O'Hare, 68 at Midway, 66 in Aurora, 66 Lakefront. Your next news update is at 8:30. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next on AM 560, The Answer.
Now, from the Signature Bank Studios, this is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson on AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan, and in for Amy this morning is ABC 7 political reporter emeritus, Charles Thomas. You have to turn your microphone on so the nice people can hear you.
Oh, is it on?
There you go.
There it is. Yeah.
All right.
Okay. Good morning.
Very good. So we spoke earlier with His Eminence, Professor Richard Epstein, about the Supreme Court decision in the Trump immunity case. And just to get more reactions from the left of the unhinged variety, is there any other kind? I mean, for a former Solicitor General in Neil Cattell to essentially agree that this decision allows Trump to assassinate people willy-nilly. I mean, it's just something. It's something to behold, as is this. Representative Zoe Lofgren, she actually is an attorney, in addition to being a politician. This is what she had to say about the decision, taking it the other direction.
I guess, theoretically, President Biden, acting within the scope of his official duties, could dispatch the military to take out the conservative justices on the court, and he'd be immune.
Uh-huh. Right. Another officer of the court offering that ridiculous scenario. Maybe that's a bit of a fever dream of Zoe Lofgren's and many on the left. they're happy to see Bannon in prison, so he's shut up, not because of the contempt of Congress. Any means to get him to shut up. You've got the former mayor of Atlanta that wants the Atlanta Journal-Constitution to shut up and stop interfering with the election by publishing editorial she doesn't like. I guess that goes the same for the New York Times and Chicago Tribune, who all published essentially the same article, the same editorial, calling on Biden to step aside. This is the illiberal left. The official acts within your Article 2 powers, let me just repeat again, and you're not completely immune because there can be a disagreement over what constituted an official act based on something the president does, and the burden of proof would be on the prosecution, as is customary with sort of our constitutional norms about criminal prosecutions. But this is what you have to deal with, these hysterics, the histrionics. Van Jones, Obama suck toy, CNN contributor, he just took the political angle, but nonetheless offers sort of another description because, again, this is the only interest is in Trump. There's no ability to look beyond the tip of their nose here and think about the presidency and the republic. It's just, any means necessary to get Trump, and anything that impedes putting Trump in a hole is a threat to our democracy.
Basically, the question is, Supreme Court, do you more care about the unlawful conduct of a sitting president or possibly the unfair prosecution of a former president? That's really what they had to balance. They're obviously more concerned about the latter. And so I think politically, it's bad. It makes the Supreme Court look very partisan. They're supposed to be wearing these kind of black and white umpire jerseys or whatever. They look like they're wearing red jerseys or even MAGA hats. It's going to go down bad politically for the Supreme Court. But it's also scary because what is Trump going to do? If Trump gets elected and there's this idea that he can get away with even more stuff, that's really, really scary for the public because he already ran over every norm that he could. So it seems like, I'm just looking at this politically, not legally, politically, it's almost like a license to thug in a way. Like, you can do whatever you want, and the Supreme Court is probably going to let you get away with it. That is very frightening.
License to thug.
Like Joe Biden has a license to thug. Again, it's as you say, it's all about Trump. It's not about what's best for the country. I thought this was a middle ground decision, and it's being rejected.
Have you noticed?
People.
Right, and have you noticed that the Supreme Court wasn't partisan when Amy Coney Barrett wrote the majority, a terrible decision in the Murthy case.
Right.
That it's not. There wasn't partisan hacks then. It's only partisan when originalists on the court act in furtherance of originalism and in contravention to the activism that the left desires.
Dan, that's something you've been talking about that for years.
Yeah.
And
license to thug.
I think people are getting it finally.
I hope so.
I think they're getting it.
I hope so. I don't know.
Even on the left, the center left at least, is certainly thinking about it. I mean, the Supreme Court ruling affects presidents. They could be Democrats. They could be Republicans. Everything is focused on Trump, as you mentioned, and it's not about Trump. MAGA is not about Trump. It's a movement. It's the American people who are speaking, and they don't want to concede that.
Randy Barnett is Georgetown law professor. He's also the author of the new book, Life for Liberty, The Making of an American Originalist. Life for Liberty, The Making of an American Originalist. Professor Randy Barnett, thanks for joining us again. Appreciate it.
Well, thanks for having me on, Dan and Charles. I appreciate it. Kind of coincidentally, in my book, I talk about how I first met Richard Epstein when I was a law student, inviting him out to Harvard Law School to talk, and how we got to know each other, and he helped get me as a visiting scholar or a researcher at University of Chicago after I was a Cook County State's Attorney. So it's a coincidence that we happen to be on the air on the same airwaves this morning.
Would you like to come back and run for Cook County State's Attorney? We could use an upgrade. So, no, it's funny you say that because I meant to say this to Professor Epstein, but he's on the show pretty regularly. But I mean, one of the great joys of this job for me is to be able to speak to basically geniuses like Richard Epstein, people that are just so so just intellectual powerhouses, I mean, seminal minds in the history of the legal profession in this case. And certainly Professor Epstein qualifies, as do you. And so no, it's great to talk to you both. And we try to platform people that are more intelligent than us on this show. So your review of the Supreme Court's holding in the Trump immunity case.
Well, the people that are running around today with their heads cut off are the same people who are telling you that last week Joe Biden did very well in that debate because he had a cold last week, and that there's nothing wrong with this man. So you have to credit the source and ask yourself, how credible are they? And when they tell you to deny the evidence of your own eyes. Now they're telling you to deny the evidence of what the Supreme Court says. And I agree with Charles. This was a moderate opinion. At oral argument, which I listened to over the weekend, 2.5 hours of oral argument, the government argued that there were certain core presidential functions granted to the president by the Constitution itself for which he had essential immunity. The Trump lawyer argued that there were certain acts alleged in the complaint against President Trump that constituted private acts for which he did not have immunity. So the question then was just what are those acts that are in between those two things, not allocated to the president by express constitutional authority and also not clearly private acts. So it was a middle-of-the-road decision, but of course some people decided to interpret the majority opinion by reading the histrionic opinion of Justice Sotomayor in dissent instead.
Mm-hmm. Right, where she essentially says that this is a threat to the republic, this decision, because it makes, we talked about this with Epstein, it makes Trump or any president the king, but it expressly doesn't do that. And for a Supreme Court justice to ignore the existence of the other branches of government, the power those other branches of government have, the power that prosecutors still have if there is a question about something a president did that rises to the level of possible criminality, and you can present evidence to suggest it wasn't in keeping with his Article 2 powers. I mean, it's just not consistent with the declaration that Sotomayor offered.
Well, here's the deal. Here's the deal, Dan, as our president likes to say.
Mm-hmm.
We currently have a president who has used his Department of Justice to criminally prosecute his political opponent, the outgoing president of the United States. If it weren't for this Supreme Court decision, I would have expected President Trump, if he wins the election in November, to initiate an investigation of President Biden for acting illegally, for abusing his authority and abusing his power. So I think there might have been a criminal prosecution of President Biden for election interference by using his Department of Justice to interfere with the upcoming election. But this Supreme Court decision puts an end to that.
Well, this
Supreme Court decision is protective of President Biden should President Trump become the next president of the United States.
Well, this is my point. The point I've been making is both with 1512 and the J6 case, the Sarbanes-Oxley provision with respect to J6 prosecutions, and this immunity case, what it seems to me the majority in the court is trying to do is stave off this mutually assured destruction by way of political lawfare.
Dan, that's exactly what they're trying to do. That's so important. That is complete. There's been the court says that's what it's trying to do, and this Chief Justice Roberts does, and this has been completely lost sight of. They are trying to stop the downward spiral in which we turn into a third world country in which outgoing presidents get prosecuted by incoming presidents routinely. That's what's going to happen if that's not cut short. This opinion cuts that short. Notwithstanding everything that the Democrats say today, they're going to be asserting all of the limiting principles in that opinion in the future if President Trump were to do what I no longer think he will do, and that is prosecute Joe Biden.
I want to get back to that, but I wanted something else on this. So, you heard, I'm sure, that Trump has moved to have his convictions in Manhattan set aside because of this holding by the Supreme Court. But it doesn't seem to me that it seems to me those are private acts, even if that's a sham prosecution, which I think it was, that the Supreme Court holding in the immunity case is not applicable to the outcome in the Manhattan state case. Do you agree with that?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, sure, for sure. The Georgia case, I'm not sure about with the RICO Act they have there going. Who knows what's going to happen with that case?
We missed your answer. You must have cut out. We missed your answer on Manhattan. So Trump is off base in terms of anticipating that could be applicable to his convictions in Manhattan. Yes. Oh, Professor Burnett. Oh, did we lose him?
I think we must have lost him there.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, I kind of want to answer that question. All right. Well, let's take a break real quick and see if we can get Professor Barnett back to answer that question so that we have confirmation of my instincts. We'll be right back.
You're listening to Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson on AM 560. The Answer.
Balance of Nature supplements, changing the world one life at a time.
My name is Dr. Zhang. I'm a doctor of podiatric medicine.
My name is Todd. I'm a paramedic firefighter. I've been on the job for 28 years.
My name is Dr. Peter Munda. I'm a chiropractor in New York, Long Island.
I've been taking Balance of Nature for 23 years.
I love Balance of Nature, and this is definitely a product that I would recommend to other people, and I'll never stop taking it.
How many 70-year-old pictures, As far as Balance of Nature goes, I'll keep taking this stuff until the day I die,
I'm almost 55 years old, and because I have so much vitality, I can really enjoy the great outdoors. Our bodies are kind of like machines. If you do not give the machine the proper nutrition, it's not going to work very well. Simple as that.
Splash into your summer with our summer savings. Go to balanceofnature.com and get 50% off your first set as a preferred customer by using discount code Chicago.
AM 560, The Answer.
All right, we're back, and I think we have Professor Randy Barnett from Georgetown Law back. Professor?
Yeah, apparently the disinformation powers that be were just trying to stifle my voice.
Of course. So Trump's attempt to get the Manhattan conviction set aside using the Supreme Court decision on the presidential immunity, that doesn't make sense to me. What about you?
No, those were private acts by any stretch. By the terms of this opinion, they were private acts.
And you were starting to address any potential impact on the cases the case against him in Georgia.
Yeah, well, you have a RICO count there that involves a conspiracy involving activity that the court is suggesting were private acts, at least an oral argument were private acts, communicating, for example, with the Secretary of State or communicating with governors of states. I don't know if they are or are not private acts, but the opinion gives plenty of reason to look at that case, and I should say that the opinion does not clearly address what should go on in that case, and we'll have to see.
One other question I wanted you to address to this. I don't know if you saw it, but this op-ed from Professor Lawrence Lessig from Harvard in the Wall Street Journal about fake electors, because that's there are these prosecutions going on too that are not getting as much attention, but ordinary Americans being prosecuted in Georgia, Michigan, Wisconsin, Arizona for being part of the quote-unquote fake elector slates that the Trump campaign put together, Trump's lawyers did. And Professor Lessig goes back to the precedent set in Hawaii in 1960, Nixon v. Kennedy, where Nixon was declared the winner, but a recount, it went to John F. Kennedy. And then on January 6th of 1961, Vice President Nixon, overseeing the count in Congress, counted Kennedy's votes, not his, but both elector slates voted to ensure that if any potential recount changed the actual winner from who was declared the winner, then you had votes to properly count when it came time for the formal count, the January 6th count, if you will. And he said, so the standing up of elector slates and the pushing of elector slates, that is not illegal, and to prosecute these people is unconstitutional. That's Professor Lessig. What's your view on that?
Well, I've known Larry Lessig for many, many years. He is an independent-minded progressive, just the kind of independent person that Alan Dershowitz is, for example. And so I don't always agree with Larry, but he calls it the way he sees it, and I think there's a long history of this sort of thing. This is all an example of lawfare, where you try to criminalize your political opponents by any means necessary, and you do so because you claim that the future of our democracy, in quotation marks, is at stake. That is a recipe for authoritarianism, and we need to resist that. The sad thing and the dangerous thing here is not the Supreme Court; it's what has happened to the Democratic Party. Which, when I was growing up in Calumet City, Illinois, which is a working class Democrat town, and I argued on behalf of Barry Goldwater in front of my junior high school class and my grade school class. The Democrats in that town today would be Republicans. Because they were sensible and they were generally conservative in their views. The Democratic Party has been taken over by the left, and we have a two-party system, and that is a very dangerous thing for this country. Just like the takeover of the Labour Party in England was a bad situation for them as well. We have to work ourselves out of that.
Randy Barnett is a Georgetown law professor. The new book, A Life for Liberty: The Making of an American Originalist, that's out today. A Life for Liberty is Randy Barnett's book. Professor Barnett, thanks so much for joining us, as always. Appreciate it.
It's always great to be on, Dan. Thank you.
And he joined us on the Turnkey.pro answer line.
It's news, opinion, insight. This is Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
Honey, what are we going to do with your grandparents' old coins and jewelry?
I'm pretty sure they're worth some money.
You've been saying that for years.
Okay, how about PGS Gold and Coin? They're the best when it comes to selling family valuables.
And you know this because...
PGS, when it comes to your valuables, they're the best.
Do that again.
PGS, when it comes to your valuables, they're the best.
Isn't that the place Jeff sold his grandmother's jewelry when she passed?
Yep, he checked out pgsgoldandcoin.com and found tons of positive reviews. He was blown away by how much he got. Do you? Oh, you're already on the site.
Almost. pgsgoldandcoin.com.
PGS Gold and Coin, the upscale way of selling your coins, jewelry, diamonds, and collectibles. Family owned and operated for over 14 years. Rated A+ by the Better Business Bureau, now with 4 Chicagoland locations. And they make house calls. 888-416-2701 or pgsgoldandcoin.com.
PGS. When it comes to your valuables, they're the best.
This is Carol Platt-Liebau for townhall.com. Pundits describe the executive powers Supreme Court case as a win for Donald Trump. In one sense, it is. Special prosecutor Jack Smith won't get the case against him to trial before the election. But the opinion wasn't written for current circumstances. It was written for the ages. The court held that presidents have absolute immunity for acts within their core constitutional powers. They have presumptive immunity from prosecution for all official acts and no immunity for unofficial acts. These are sensible distinctions. Future presidents will be free to fulfill their duties without fear of political prosecution, but without free rein to engage in lawless personal conduct. Jack Smith's case will return to the trial court to determine which of Trump's challenged acts are official. Meanwhile, our nation owes the court a vote of thanks for an opinion that will serve future generations well.
Diabetes, high blood pressure, anxiety meds, everyone's on them. If you're a 50-year-old male, maybe a bit porky, and you may even have type 2 diabetes, $1 million of term insurance may only cost you about $200 a month. Call Term Provider. Speak with Big Lou at 800-568-2790. Big Lou will find a term life policy for you even if you have type 2 diabetes, are overweight, or have high blood pressure. Term Provider has helped thousands of people like you who think they can't afford term life insurance. To buy $1 million of affordable term life for you, all you need to do is call Big Lou at 800-568-2790. Lou will make sure the scales are tipped in your favor. Call 800-568-2790. Big Lou will answer your call and work to fit you into a term life policy that you can afford. Remember, Big Lou's like you. He's on meds too. Call 800-568-2790. 800-568-2790 or biglou.com.
Dan and Charles Thomas, from ABC7 political reporter. And Charles, This is why they're trying to prop Joe Biden up. You have to hear this if you haven't already. This was during the BET Awards over the weekend. Kamala Harris FaceTiming Taraji Henson, one of the stars of Empire.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, take a listen.
No, Taraji. Now, I wouldn't do that, especially not to a fellow bison. The real, ain't you? You know. So what's on your mind?
Oh, Madam VP Harris, I'm worried about the election. Women's reproductive rights are on the line. Our Supreme Court is on the line. Our basic freedoms are being tested, Madam VP. I know you've been traveling across the country. What are you hearing?
Yeah, girl, I'm out here in these streets. And let me tell you, you're right, Taraji. There is so much at stake in this moment. The majority of us believe in freedom and equality. But these extremists, as they say, they're not like us.
They not.
There's a full-on attack on our fundamental freedoms. The freedom to vote.
Yep.
The freedom to love who you love. The freedom to be safe from gun violence. The freedom for a woman to make decisions about her own body, not having her government tell her what to do.
Girl, what you talking about? Come on, man. I mean, this is so
authentic,
incredibly
so organic,
so organic.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
That's right. We're talking over the fence on the south side. We in Inglewood. I mean, come on, man. And then, was it Kamala? But she never grew up in the hood. She's from what? Isn't she Indian American or is she Black American?
Girl,
or is she what?
Come on,
girl, come on. Why you doubt? I mean,
they not like us. Uh-huh.
Oh wow.
I ain't no ways tired. They just, honestly,
I'm serious. I'm really, man. I'm serious. I just think that people falling for this. I just hope that Black folks don't fall for this.
I mean,
again,
do people really like to be patronized like that? To be infantilized?
A lot fewer people.
It's ridiculous.
Want to be patronized like that. A lot fewer than there were even 8 years ago, or certainly even 4 years ago. There are more people who are they're basically getting hip to the game.
Well, I'll tell you what. If Biden was Obama's insurance policy, Kamala is Biden's insurance policy. All right, coming up at 8:38, we got a NASCAR race this week, and we also have a Trump-endorsed candidate for Congress in Washington, who's a former NASCAR driver, Jared Sessler. We'll talk to him. Now we talk to Mike Scott for the headlines.
8:33 on AM 560. The Answer: clouds and some rain on the way for today. An Israeli airstrike has killed at least 9 in southern Gaza in the city of Khan Yunis. The overnight strike comes shortly after Israel ordered the evacuation of parts of that city ahead of a likely ground operation. President Biden says President Trump's partial victory in the court over immunity sends a dangerous precedent.
For all practical purposes, today's decision almost certainly means that there are virtually no limits on what a president can do.
In an address from the White House on Monday, Joe Biden saying that the SCOTUS decision says there are, quote, virtually no limits, end quote, his words, on presidential power. Former President Trump looking to have his New York hush money case tossed out. Hours after the court issued its landmark ruling on immunity, a letter was issued asking for the July 11th sentencing to be delayed. Family of 5 from Georgia is dead after a plane crash in the Catskill Mountains. The family was flying home after a baseball tournament in Cooperstown. The single-engine Piper went down Sunday. The pilot also killed. Hurricane Beryl, now a Category 5 strength after weakening just a bit, heading toward the Central Caribbean. That's where Cole Cruz and his wife Emily are riding out the storm in Grenada.
We've got 4 lines tied to the mangroves behind us. We've got 2. We've got our main anchor out, and then we've got a storm anchor out as well.
Forecasters say Beryl is expected to remain an extremely dangerous major hurricane. Multiple people are facing charges after Chicago police made a number of arrests after the so-called Pride Parade over the weekend. Police say officers had multiple objects thrown at them and there were several injuries. More than 50 arrests were made. Firefighters in Dalton dropped a major bombshell during a board meeting Monday night. They demanded answers and raised concerns over retirement funds, workmen's compensation, and union dues that are missing.
We will continue to serve despite the fact our health insurance is not being paid, our retirement funds are being taken from us, and workers' compensation claims are not being handled properly. These are serious issues, and they need to be addressed and fixed immediately.
Adam Farage is president of Local 3766. He says firefighters have been working without a contract for nearly 5 years. Democrats and Republicans are making an effort to remove third-party candidates and independents from Illinois' November ballot. Democrats are challenging petitions filed by Robert F. Kennedy Jr. and the Green Party candidate Jill Stein. The GOP has filed challenges against the Constitution Party candidate Randall Terry. Cubs and Phillies at Wrigley tonight. White Sox take on Cleveland. The Bulls have signed free agent center Jalen Smith to a 3-year, $27 million contract. The news, a service of In Grace with Jim Scudder Jr. Now heard Sunday morning at 6:30 on AM 560. And a check of traffic and weather on the way next on AM 560.
Dr. Sebastian Gorka wants you to get involved.
To win the election, we absolutely must. Everything is at stake. The planet as we know it, our democracy.
This is not your grandfather's, even your father's Democrat Party. It's lunatics, it's radicals, it's people who hate America, and we must save the nation from them. How? Get engaged.
America First with Dr. Sebastian Gorka. Afternoons at 3, right before Sean Thompson at 4 on AM 560. The Answer.
Balance of Nature's fruits and veggies supplements, changing the world one life at a time.
I work for the New York City Fire Department. I've been using Balance of Nature for 8 years, I believe. It's been phenomenal. And I just got retired after 33 years. I work long hours, a lot of overtime. I teach at the Fire Academy. I run with the mornings. I work out all the time. And your product has been so successful for me in my regiment. I have nothing but high praise for you guys.
Splash into your summer with Balance of Nature's summer savings. Go to balanceofnature.com and sign up as a new preferred customer to get 50% off your first set. Don't miss out. This offer is only available while supplies last. Go to balanceofnature.com or call 1-800-246-8751 and get this limited time offer by using discount code Chicago.
When you're in chronic pain, you're miserable to be around, and so are the people who have to watch you suffer. So stop it. Do something about it. Now's the time to be proactive and take care of yourself. And there's another solution other than surgery or drugs. Call QC Kinetics. QC Kinetics, they have a cutting-edge treatment that revitalizes your joints with your body's own healing process. So if you have arthritis or if you're in pain in your knees, hips, shoulder, back due to an injury, you need to call QC Kinetics today for a free consultation and get your life and mobility back. You know, I've been to one of their clinics. I met a few of their customers. They were smiling from ear to ear, so happy to have their mobility back, pain-free, without surgery. They have locations all across the Chicagoland area, including new locations in Crystal Lake and Gurnee. Call for a free consultation, 312-809-5955. That's 312-809-5955, 312-809-5955.
8:39, let's check the roads. Team Hochberg Traffic Center time. And this update is a service of Quick Delivery Service. Make Quick Delivery Service your personal ground crew. Anytime, anywhere, any place. When you need to move your shipment or freight, Quick Delivery will get it there. Get a quote in advance and eliminate any surprises at quickdelivery.com. Northwest Indiana I-65 bad accident. Northbound between 53rd and 8094, the semis crashed and spun off into the median grass, mostly on the left-hand shoulder now, but emergency equipment is arriving on the scene. I-80 stalled semi eastbound I-55 and Hobolt Road. Let's check the Dan Ryan for you. That travel time is stuck on 30 minutes, 95th into the Circle. Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan and Amy continues next. Now your official Chicagoland weather forecast. Breezy and cloudy with a shower this morning. Clouds and sun with perhaps a thunderstorm for the afternoon. High 85. Overcast and warm. A thunderstorm link, low 71 overnight. 68 right now. Next news at 9. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next on AM 560. The Answer.
Now, from the Signature Bank Studios. If you're looking for the latest news, insight into what it means, and the sharpest opinion, there's only one station in Chicago where you can turn, and it's this one. We're AM 560. The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan, and in for Amy J this morning, ABC 7 political reporter emeritus Charles Thomas.
Still here.
You go to that NASCAR race, that NASCAR street race coming up this week?
I'm not going. No, I saw it on TV.
Wow.
I was in another city actually, and I thought it looked really cool. You know, the race cars going around the city.
Yeah, it looks
the visual.
Yeah, it looks fun to see, but I don't know that I want to be around that many Chicagoans.
Oh no.
No. Yeah.
No. On the 4th of July weekend, no.
I never really got into NASCAR either, I got to tell you.
Really?
Not much of a
I'm not either, but
NASCAR.
I thought that looked pretty cool when I
Yeah,
saw the lake
yeah.
and the high rises and everything. I said, man, I never thought about that.
You know, it's cool. I mean, I like, Formula One is cool too, but I don't know. It's just not a thing for me. But we got a NASCAR veteran who's running for Congress that we're going to talk to in a second, Jared Sessler. And it's a primary. Well, at least the first election is a primary in Washington State. He's running against Dan Newhouse, who is a impeachment vote on Trump. So that should be pretty chippy. I'm sure it already is. This was Joe Biden releasing a new spot post-debate as he tries to recover from that performance. Take a listen.
Did you see Trump last night? I mean it sincerely. The most lies told in a single debate. He lied about the great economy he created. He lied about the pandemic he botched. And then, his biggest lie, he lied about how he had nothing to do with the insurrection of January 6th. We all saw with our own eyes.
We're going to walk down to the Capitol, and I'll be there with you.
We saw police being attacked, the Capitol being ransacked. He did not a single thing to stop it, nothing. Folks, I know I'm not a young man, but I know how to do this job. I know right from wrong. I know how to tell the truth. And I know, like millions of Americans know, when you get knocked down, you get back up. I'm Joe Biden, and I approve this message.
Yeah, baby.
And I know, like millions of Americans know, when you get knocked down, you get back up. I get knocked down.
He's such a rock star, Charles.
But come on. Dan. that was a Saturday Night Live soundtrack.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean,
But are you serious?
Boy, the enthusiasm for the Biden campaign. Pay no attention to the 3/4 of Americans who don't think he has the mental acuity for the job and don't want him to run. Sure, okay. I mean, this was one of the great snow jobs of all time. If they can pull it off,
If they can pull that one off, man, I got to give up. I got to give up the funk. If they can pull that off.
All right. Well, let's see what's happening out there in the Pacific Northwest. Jared Sessler is the Trump-endorsed candidate in Wisconsin 4. He's a former NASCAR driver, as I mentioned. He's running against Dan Newhouse, who is a Trump impeachment vote. What's the lay of the land in Wisconsin 4? Jared Sessler, thanks so much for joining us. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you, gentlemen. Nice to be here. Washington 4 is quite a mess right now. I was leading Dan Newhouse about 17 to 19 points going into filing week, and he had to recruit some help to try to split the vote. And so he recruited a past candidate from Senate last cycle, Tiffany Smiley, who has millions of dollars worth of debt she's trying to pay off from her Senate race. And so she's in the race now as of filing week, trying to help Dan Newhouse split the vote and help herself pay off her debt. But we're still going to win. It's looking really good. And I'll just add that the only thing bigger than what the Democrats think they're trying to do now is the greatest heist on American history, which was the 2020 election. And nobody has been more of a disgrace to American history than Joe Obama in this last 3.5 years.
How does Newhouse explain himself in the context here of everything that has transpired and is transpiring? Has he walked back anything he's done, his views on Trump, the vote that he took, or is he just sort of pretending it didn't happen and trying to pile on Biden to pretend that he's with the grassroots?
Yeah, it's pretty surprising because he really, you know how accepting people are. He really could have walked this back and probably gained a lot of traction with the voters, but he just hasn't. And I don't think that's the way he feels. He refuses to say President Trump's name. He will not, he continues to stand on this platform of, I'm just voting with my conscience and this is what I believe. And, all this hogwash that, any even remotely sane person can look at what happened over the last few years to President Trump and know that, at least 110% of it was just pure lies. And he just continues to stand on that. He's kind of a wet suit. I mean, he just doesn't really express himself well. He doesn't present well. I'm struggling to get my arms around how he ever got elected. I've been on the debate stage with him and just demolished him. And he doesn't defend himself. I don't understand how he got elected, or and this is my perspective. Like, this is not my world. I want to do this because I think this is what the American people need. This is what we need. We need strong, bold leadership. But how can you be so milquetoast in the face of the biggest threats that we've ever faced in our lives, from a political standpoint, from a social economical standpoint? I mean, this guy has got to go.
It would seem to me that even though he's trying to split up the vote, it would seem to me that you would be in a pretty good position as the Trump endorsed candidate to have the biggest base of the three candidates, right?
For sure, yeah. This district will take about 74 to 75% of the Republican vote, so it's one of the most conservative districts on the West Coast. And I just need to get something north of 25% in the primary in order to make it into the general, because Washington is one of those weird jungle states where it doesn't matter what. Yeah, so most likely it will be me and Dan Newhouse in the general election. But I want to have a really strong primary so that people look at those results and say, okay, yeah, this guy's got the stones to win in the general, knowing that Dan Newhouse will probably get help from the Democrats in the general. But yeah,
I'm sorry to interrupt, but this is key too. I mean, we're talking about the slim majority in the House. We've spent most of this year talking about that and how complicated it is. And part of that is because you have soft Republicans in conservative districts rather than a real hard charger, which you should have in a safe Republican district. And this is a good example. We have the same problem, or did, when we had Republicans here in Illinois. You have placeholders where you need killers, and it sounds like maybe that'll change in Wisconsin 4.
Yeah, absolutely. It's Washington 4. I love Wisconsin, but I'm in Washington.
Oh, Washington right. 4. Sorry, I just misspoke.
But yeah, you're right, and most people don't think about that. They look at AOC, they look at near you in Minnesota. Ilhan Omar's got a packed district of Somalians. You look at Jerry Nadler and Adam Schiff, and these people that are from these deep blue districts, and we don't complain about that. I mean, we do, we should, but then we look at these deep red districts, and we don't have somebody who's truly passionate, who really wants to be, sort of a Matt Gaetz, Thomas Massey, Bob Good, Scott Perry, really strong Jim Jordan kind of a candidate. And we should have somebody like that. We can't waste this bullet on somebody who's milquetoast.
What got you into the race? Is it the last everything that's transpired the last 8 years, or what was the motivation to enter this world, as you say, from the outside?
veteran. Then I'm an double engineering major, and then started my own company almost 30 years ago. And was just kind of working in business. Had really no interest in politics until 2012, when Obama was reelected, and it was the first time I was politically numb, where I thought, oh my goodness, we're going to put up with another 4 years of this guy. And that was really the deciding point for me when I stood up and looked around. I was like, I want to run for Congress. And that was 10 years ago. But be honest, Dan, I just didn't know enough about our civic process. And so I started taking Hillsdale College classes and started following Dennis Prager and Victor David Hanson and Larry Arnn and, all these really smart people who I respect. Epoch Times is doing an amazing job. And I just started learning about how our system works. Read a book called The Original Intent by David Barton, and is really studying. I've been to D.C. like 40 times in the last 20 years, and for business and what I call citizen lobbyists and stuff like that. But that's kind of where it all started for me. And then I was in D.C. on January 6th. I saw the whole setup. I saw what went down. It's totally not what everybody's seen on TV and what's been reported through this sham J6 commission. And, I saw my congressman vote to impeach the greatest president of our lives. And I just was like, yeah, this is not happening. It's time to run here. So I got in the race last cycle. There were 7 candidates. Dan Newhouse was able to eke out another term with only 25% of the vote. And this time there's only 3 candidates. And really it should just be Dan and I if he wasn't recruiting help. But I feel really good about it. President Trump's been incredibly gracious. He's a great man. Obviously his help, I think, is what's going to get me over the line. But we've got House Freedom Caucus. I've got about a dozen congressmen who are seatmates to Dan Newhouse who've endorsed me. Kash Patel, who is an absolute bulldog for corruption and wants to hold people accountable. General Flynn. I've got the support and the relationships, not just to win this race, but to be effective in Congress.
The website, Jared for Congress, JERROD for Congress.com, if you want to support Jared's efforts out there in Washington State. Before we let you go, make the pitch for NASCAR for us. Charles and I, not big NASCAR guys, but it's in town, so, make the pitch.
Yeah, I'll just tell you that road course, though, any type of course like that is just scary as to drive. You cannot see. You kind of know the course in your mind. That's the way drivers think. They know where their marks are. But the problem is they don't know what's happening because you can't see the course, and it's just incredibly scary. And it's a very dangerous race. So I'm not a fan for encouraging people to, assemble in mass in Chicago. There's way too much likelihood you're going to get shot. But, the race is a fun race. I think you can probably have as much fun on TV with some friends. But it is pretty amazing to hear the roar of the engines and the power of it. I've never been a tremendous fan of watching racing, other than my boys who have grown up to be great racers. But I do love, I love the power. I love the exhilaration of, being behind the seat with a steering wheel in your hand.
I get that sort of, threat of danger and excitement every time I drive the Dan Ryan to go play golf at Olympia Fields, Charles. I don't know that I need it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you have a 6 or an 8 handicap. What is it?
Yeah, I would actually have to give Joe Biden apparently 3 to 5 strokes. I'm a 3 index, but yeah, no, I know he's a good player. I heard all about it. Jared Sessler, the Trump endorsed candidate for Congress in Washington again, Jared, JERROD for Congress.com to support Jared Sessler's campaign. Primaries August 6th?
Yeah, ballots are out in about 2 weeks, and Washington State invented this whole mail-in voting thing. So, we've got 3 weeks to return the ballots. But yeah, any support anybody can send, I really appreciate it. It's a tribute to President Trump and to what we need to do here in America over this next few years to kind of restore this thing to some sanity again.
Why don't you send us some of those mail-in ballots, man? We can.
Yeah, sure. We'll roundtable them here. That's how it works in Cook County, as you know. The kidding, of course, for the federal prosecutors listening. This is the one example of election fraud they would prosecute. Jared Sessler, thanks so much for joining us. Good luck on August 6th. We appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks, guys. I appreciate it. Have a good day.
And he joined us on the Turnkey.Pro answer line.
The stories you need to know to start your day. This is Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
Hi, this is Randy Donnelly from Donnelly Auctions in Union, Illinois, with my current want list for upcoming auctions. Guns and military items are always at the top of my list, but I have buyers for vintage automobiles and motorcycles, old gas pumps and automotive signs. Do you have pinball machines and coin-operated games like slot machines, jukeboxes? How about Coke machines and soda machines? Also, neon signs, antique phonographs and music boxes, old toys, especially science fiction and Star Wars, cowboy and Native American collections like barbershop, ice cream parlor, and saloon items. We'll take one item or an entire collection. We sell it all. Call me before you sell your items outright, because you could be leaving a fortune on the table. And you won't know until you call me at 815-923-7000 or send me an email at DonnellyAuctions.com. My job is to get you top dollar for your collections, so call me at 815-923-7000. I'm Randy Donnelly, and I'll see you at the auction.
You've worked hard and accumulated wealth, but you know the pitfalls involved in passing significant assets to your heirs. The team at Spahn Financial will help you feel secure with personalized financial planning to achieve your legacy goals. They anticipate and manage all your wealth planning needs and focus on the full financial picture, including tax efficiency, income distribution throughout retirement, philanthropic giving, estate planning, and more. They even help you prepare the next generation to be good stewards. Kevin Spahn is a 2024 Forbes Best in State Wealth Advisor and Barron's Top 1200 Financial Advisor. Visit SpahnFinancial.com to schedule a consultation and to view disclosures. That's SPAHMFinancial.com. Forbes Best in State Wealth Advisors List, April 2024. Data as of 6/30/2023. Barron's Top 1200 Financial Advisors List, March 2024. Data as of 9/30/2023. No compensation provided for ratings. Marketing fees apply to promote ratings.
This is Carol Platt-Liebau for townhall.com. Pundits describe the executive powers Supreme Court case as a win for Donald Trump. In one sense, it is. Special prosecutor Jack Smith won't get the case against him to trial before the election. But the opinion wasn't written for current circumstances. It was written for the ages. The court held that presidents have absolute immunity for acts within their core constitutional powers. They have presumptive immunity from prosecution for all official acts, and no immunity for unofficial acts. These are sensible distinctions. Future presidents will be free to fulfill their duties without fear of political prosecution, but without free rein to engage in lawless personal conduct. Jack Smith's case will return to the trial court to determine which of Trump's challenged acts are official. Meanwhile, our nation owes the court a vote of thanks for an opinion that will serve future generations well.
They're Trump's most diehard fans in the front row at every Trump rally.
You had to love the United States of America. You had to support Mr. Donald Trump's re-election.
Trump's Front Row Joes is the new two-part documentary offering the first inside look at the men and women standing shoulder to shoulder with Trump in the greatest political movement in American history.
The kind of basis for all the rallies, there's like dead fans.
Like-minded people following their hero all around the country, exhausting their bank accounts, camping out for days in the freezing cold and scorching heat to support Trump's re-election and make America great again.
The Front Row Joes are very successful, incredible people.
Trump's Front Row Joes, from executive producer Sean Spicer, former White House press secretary and communications director for President Donald J. Trump.
Friendships I've made over the years as a Front Row Joe, it's probably the best part of it.
Don't miss Trump's Front Row Joes. Watch it now. Go to salemnow.com. salemnow.com. AM 560, The Answer.
All right, Charles Thomas, thank you for sitting in again today. Appreciate it.
4 hours, not enough time. So much to talk about.
So much to talk about, and we'll talk about more of this tomorrow, as well as have a little birthday party for America in advance of Thursday. But now we check the headlines with Mike Scott.
Authorities ID a man pulled from Lake Michigan. Former Blackhawk staff gets reinstated by the NHL. Cubs host the Phillies, and the White Sox will visit the Guardians. WIND Chicago News Time, 9 o'clock.
President Biden just had his best fundraising month yet.
I'm Dave Anthony, Fox News. Democrats and his campaign raked in $127 million in June, more than a quarter of it after last week's debate the president's still trying to recover from.
The Biden campaign is having a hard time calming supporters down. They reportedly had an hour-long Zoom call with hundreds of Democratic donors on Monday. One participant said no one feels good about this. Another said there are